Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gamers Lounge podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me this evening is Dennis and Nathaniel. Everybody else is out doing stuff, unlike us who are staying at home doing nothing, like a bunch of nothing.
Maybe they're doing nothing. They're not out doing stuff. They're just out doing nothing.
Well, that
We
could
don't
be.
know.
Still maintain this should always be a property. You know, you want to make plans ahead of time, that's fine, but you always make this priority number one.
Especially when you only do it once twice a month. I mean, it's not hard. Now, granted, we were supposed to do it last week, but you know, I was a little not feeling well last week, so I think.
Well, I mean, like, nothing should get in the way, though. I mean, I don't care if it's a funeral, a birth. I don't, you know, it's.
I gotta go.
Asteroid hitting the planet.
This will always
doesn't
be-
matter. It's
Even
podcast
if you need,
time.
I mean, just bring your laptop to the hospital at least. At least.
Dennis,
know?
can you mute your mic? I can hear the doctor telling your wife to push. It's like yeah, everybody would love that. That'd be great. That's reality television now, isn't that what everybody watches is reality television?
Pretty much.
I
Yeah,
don't.
also known as
It's
MTV.
not fake enough for reality TV.
Oh, okay. I'm not up on the trends on celestial television, so I don't know. I'm
That
more
still
of a
exists. What?
yeah, more of a
knows?
streaming thing. So I don't want the only time I watch live television is like right now because football's on. That's about it. That's usually the only time we watch live television. So. All right, well, we got a lot to talk about this week, so let's just hop right in and talk about what we've been playing. I haven't played a whole lot because I've been very busy with work. I did buy and download The Wandering Village this past, I think it came out Thursday? I think it was Thursday. It's in early access. It's a very interesting game. I actually sent the thing on Twitter to Dennis. Somebody retweeted it that I follow. I don't know who it is, but it's literally a village or a city builder that's on the back of like this lumbering dinosaur thing that walks around.
I remember seeing previews for it.
Apparently, they must have had a demo for it during what was the Steam demo?
I think they did back in June, July, whatever the summer. No, it's not Summer Game Fest. That's the wrong thing. But yeah, like when they have hundreds of demos on Steam, I think it was part of that.
And I missed that one. I didn't even see it, or if I did see it, it didn't click with me and scanned over. Because when I saw the trailer, I was like, "This looks like something I would really like." I like city builders, and it's very. I don't want to say simple. It's not simple, but it's very stylized looking, so it looked really cool. Like I said, I haven't even got through the tutorial stuff yet on it. I'm still, I just booted it up like this morning after buying it. It's what little bit of it I've played. I'm playing it on the Steam Deck. It's not deck verified, and there's no controller support, so it's a little wonky with the way you have to do things with the mouse pad and stuff like that, but it's not bad. There's already had somebody in the community already made a controller like layout for it that makes it a whole lot easier to do. So all you got to do is just go to controller support and download it like you can, like you do through Steam. But there's one thing about it that's weird. It's all, and I don't know if it's because it's early access or if it's because I'm playing it on Steam or playing it on the Steam Deck. I need to download it to the PC and try it. Nothing is setting on the actual dinosaur or whatever you want to call it, the creature. It's all floating about this far above. And where the creature curves, it still goes out flat. So trees are just kind of hanging out in the air. People will just walk where there's no ground and cut the trees down, and you can build a building. So I don't know if it's just early access or if Steam's not, where it's not verified on Steam, it's not doing something with the textures or something.
It's definitely a bug of some type for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So I need to download it to the computer, boot it up, just to see if it does it on the PC, which I might do that after the show because it's only a couple gigs. It's not very big. It's a very small company that's or a developer that's doing it. But what little bit of it I've played, it's really, really good. You've got to make sure you keep your people happy. You got to make sure they got enough food. Like I didn't realize I needed to have them pick this thing and store this thing. So a couple of them started dying off because they were starving. I'm like, oh crap, I need to do this, So like, go harvest this and go build that. And, then all of a sudden, well, you've got scientists. Well, I've got to build this so the scientists can figure out this and do that and things. It's a cool little game. I'm very excited to get a little bit deeper into it, but I just haven't had time. Maybe, hopefully this week, but yeah, I think it's like on sale for like $22 or $20, something like that. It's not too expensive. I think it's like normally $25 or $30, and it's on sale for $20 or $25, something like that. The other thing that I did do, I upgraded my memory in my hard drive in my Steam Deck the other night. I've got the 64 gig here in my hand. It was relatively easy to do this. I was very surprised. All I did was pop the back off, take the heat cover off, unplug the battery, pop the new drive in, put it all back together. I have this SD card reader with a USB C on the end of it. Plugged it in, booted it up, downloaded the iOS, and it was good to go. It installed everything. So I wanted a 512, but really I wanted to get a terabyte, but the terabytes are over $200 now, and the 512s are over $150 now. The 256 gig I bought was $25.
Yeah.
Like,
It doesn't surprise me that the bigger ones are more expensive, just because the smaller form factor ones are harder to do. You find that size a lot cheaper in the full size M.2s.
well, before the Steam Decks come out, I almost bought a 512 just to have on hand. Back then they were running about $50 to $60.
Yeah. Plus, they do fluctuate too.
Yeah, but it's like once the Steam Deck come out, then all of a sudden the prices of the bigger ones just shot up.
Everyone's buying them. For
Yeah,
their
exactly.
Steam Decks.
Well, and this is what kind of drive is this? This is the slower of the drives. The one I bought is an MVM drive because it has the same port on. So I actually do. It's a little bit faster with loading like the OS and stuff like that. It seems a little snappier. And that could just be because there's not a whole lot installed on it right now, too. And this one was getting to the point where it was almost, I think I had 5 gigs left on it. And it's not that I had games installed on it. It was all just the shaders for all the games that I had on SD cards. And until Steam figures that out, so I could save that on a SD card instead of on the internal storage, I wouldn't have even upgraded because I wouldn't have needed it. But for some reason, the game downloads the SD card, the updates download the SD card, but all the shaders save to the internal.
I would say that they probably cannot put that on an SD card.
And maybe
it
not.
would not work because of the way that like shaders and things, like you can put game save files and stuff on there on an SD card, but having all the shaders and things, it just might not work.
Well, some
with
people
SD cards,
have,
or it would just make the SD card melt because it'd be accessing it so much.
Maybe, I don't know. Some people have drugged the shaders folders over to the SD card, and then from then on, it saves the shaders to the SD card.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, if you ever install a new game, the shaders go right back to the internal drive. So, and if you use multiple memory cards like I do, you don't know what folder is what game because they're just numbers, So
yeah.
It was like, you know what? I'll just get a 256 gig, and that'll be good until prices go down or I catch a 512 or a 1 terabyte on something way cheaper. But for now, I think 256 will be good. But for the price of the 256 gig Steam Deck, this was cheaper than buying it. $25 for the hard drive. So
I would happily do 25 for that. Yeah, but I think it's a texture streaming issue mostly more than anything. So even though, it's not to say that it couldn't run off an SD card, but I think for the sake of making games run in the most optimal fashion on the Steam Deck, they probably prioritize having it on the onboard memory, because if you have those, I've played games with like texture streaming issues where there's like memory leaks and things like that as well.
Yeah.
And like it is annoying knowing that a game is beautiful, but it just, you're literally watching the textures. It can take upwards of 30 seconds sometimes for some to pop up, and some of them are multi-layered too, right? So as they become higher and higher resolution, it goes to something that's just basically one color. Then you see a couple of more dimensions, right? Then you start to see some details in there, and then go all the way up to the it's fully loaded now, and that looks really, really bad. And I think because of the differences in so many SD cards, whether someone has a class 3 or a class 10 or whatever, they don't want to, have that basically impact performance so much. So, they're essentially taking the hit on themselves by sacrificing the storage, by allowing it to live there, basically, even if it takes up, a lot of space that would otherwise, should be for other games. But yeah.
Well, and I'm sure not everybody's like me that has, 50, 60 games at one time, on between 2 memory cards. I'm sure most people probably only have 4 or 5. They're not like me, who one day I feel like playing Horizon or Red Dead Redemption or something, and the next day I want to play something simple. It's like, and when when I use it for travel, it's not like I have the convenience of having always good Wi-Fi that I could just download the game real quick. So, I slap them all on there, or slap a lot of them on there, and that's
Actually, that's a curious question. I was thinking about this the other day. Because Steam is so DRM heavy, do you need a constant internet connection with the Steam Deck, or
no.
can you play games offline?
You can play games offline. Yeah, once
Oh,
you
that's nice.
download
Okay.
it, yeah,
Sure,
once you
nice.
Same with
download it,
normal Steam.
yeah, it works just like normal Steam. You can play it offline.
Wait, okay. Normal Steam
Normal
does
Steam
that?
has
Because every
offline mode.
time,
Yeah.
Yep, it has an offline
oh
mode.
yeah, I
Yep.
guess they do. But like, I don't know. Every time I'm like out of like let's just say my internet cuts out, and I try to access the game, it's like, nope, because it's got to verify the license or something. Meanwhile, GOG, that's their selling point is,
Right.
oh, we're DRM free, so you can, you can even just play directly from the file. You can just move the files. You don't even need to
Right.
launch it from GOG, something like that. So
No, I haven't had any problems playing it offline at all. Other than of course cloud
that's really
saves,
nice.
but I mean,
well, yeah,
but that you have to have a connection for. But as far as playing games,
that's what I was.
no.
Okay, that's nice. That's really nice. That's what I was worried about, because I was like, man, like that DRM might come to bite people in the ass. Not that it's something to, worry about really. Everyone's got an internet connection at some point. I mean, you can, if it's really that much of an issue, go to a Starbucks or a McDonald's to help you out.
Yeah, or either
there's free
tether it to
Wi-Fi
your
there.
phone. I mean, if
Right, or do that. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
they can make a quick hotspot. So
yeah.
You have
Usually,
no internet. How did you buy a Steam Deck in the first place?
well, that's true.
You have to have it somewhere.
Yeah, that's it's
Gabe
like
personally sent it to me. The game too. He just knocked on the door. I heard you wanted one.
yeah.
Notice you didn't pay for it, but it's all right. I heard you wanted one.
We heard that you might be interested in buying a Steam Deck. I'm going door to door selling Steam Decks. How did you get my address? Well, you're on a list.
That's still like one of the craziest things I ever read, because you guys saw that article, right? Well, there was many going around of like him personally delivering Steam Decks
I
to
saw
random
the
people
video.
that had bought it. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, is Tim here? No, he's not here. It's like, that was the best one. It was on the video. It's like some woman came to the door. He's like, "I have a package for Tim. Is he here?" No, he's not here. Oh, well, could you tell him that Gabe brought him a Steam Deck? And he turned around and walked away. It's like, and that poor woman didn't know who he was. Oh, okay, Gabe. All right, I'll take the message.
But that's like the equivalent of like when when Reggie was still at Nintendo, and if he just went door to door, was just like,
Yeah.
I got your Nintendo Switch right here, man. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
What?
What's Reggie doing here? How did you know I existed? Like, Jesus. But that's so cool though. Like, that must have blown people's minds. Like, when that started happening.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. And the other game I played, one of the reasons why I saved it for last is because I know Dennis has been playing it. I did play quite a bit the week it came out of Disney Dreamlight Valley. I'm playing it on the Steam Deck as well on PC. Thought about buying it on the Switch, but after reading Dennis's review and listening to him talk about it, I was like, okay. My wife is very disappointed because she wanted to play it. That's the only thing she plays on is the Switch. So maybe when
now, avoid it at all costs.
Maybe when it officially launches next year, maybe it'll be better.
I'm hoping they're actually really communicative, because I've actually been part of their Discord, and I'm following everything like very hardcore, because I'm really enjoying the game that much. And they're very responsive to the community, and not only that, but they're taking everything everyone's been having issues with to heart. And the fact that they released this big patch, because it was a big patch, that they finally released on the 15th, so 2 days ago. That within a week, I mean, those poor guys, I mean, they must have been crunching like crazy. But to fix all those issues and then, send it in for, because even patches have to go for certification on consoles and stuff, right? Send it in, get it finally approved, then have it officially go out for consumers is no easy feat. Most big patches like that, they take probably the better part of a month. They got it out within a week of release. So I mean, they were taking a lot of stuff to heart from what people were saying. I'm sure they already had stuff planned, because again,
I was gonna say they knew some of that before they put it out.
Sure.
A lot of the things they already knew, and so they yeah, we're already planning to put this out a week later. We'll look good by doing so.
Yeah, yeah. We'll look like magicians because we got it out so fast. But No,
But yeah,
I
they've
like it.
been
I like
very
it.
good
I
with it.
haven't. I've maybe played it. I say I've played it a lot. Maybe 3 or 4 hours. I got Wally, and that's about as far as I've
That's
got.
like, 10
That's the one I
hours
can't
normal
get.
person time. 3 or
It's
4 hours for John is a lot these
It
days.
is a lot these days.
It is.
I was my niece and nephew were over last week, and because they left on Saturday and they came over Friday to eat, and my great nephew wanted to come downstairs and of course play Lego Star Wars. And I was like, okay. And as soon as I turned it on, it's like, hey, your controller needs updated. Yeah, okay. Now this controller is. I was like, and I'm sitting here playing it with him after we finally get everything updated. It's like, I can't remember the last time I sat down here and played a game. It's been months because I just haven't had time. But yeah. So did you say you haven't got Wally yet? Who did you take first then? Did
So
you not
yeah,
take Wally?
so no, I know it was Wally. Here's the problem though: is Wally for me is entirely broken. I actually put a tweet out about it because it's been like that even pre-launch. Even when I was
Really?
reviewing the game before it came out, Wally has been inaccessible for me. Not because I can't go into his realm and talk to him,
Hmm.
but I literally the quest line is broken now.
Hmm.
And they said they had fixed it in this current patch, but it is still broken for me. Everything else and everyone else so far, I've been able to get no problems. And I've had a couple hiccups with quests here and there, but at some point or at one point or another, I've been able to complete them in some fashion, whether it's by some, some weird cheesiness or just because it miraculously just fixed itself. Um, but with Wally, the quest line is completely broken because it crashed when I was in the middle of doing a specific part of the quest.
Hmm.
But oddly enough, when it booted back up, it said, "All right, you're good to go." Even though I didn't collect the things it said it wanted me to collect, it was like, "You're good to go." It completely skipped that part of the quest. So now when I go talk to Wally, Wally's like, "What are you doing here?" Because I'm supposed to give him something,
Right.
and I can't convince him to come back to the valley with me unless I give him this thing. But that part of the quest isn't even available, and neither is that thing that I need isn't available for me either. So the quest line is just completely broken. But
Huh.
I've been able to do a lot. I've got Anna and Elsa now, which and Gothel and so many characters at this point. I mean, I've done a lot to the valley, and I've been having a great time with it. And honestly, that game is just packed with stuff. So I mean, like I have no shortage of things to do. But with Wally in particular, I know it's going to come to a point where I am going to need him because I know there are some story specific
Right.
moments where I need to, for example, exchange something with Wally, or I need Wally's help to do something because I know this because I've seen other people do it, including my girlfriend. So it's gonna suck. So far, everything I've been working around it, everything's been good. But once it gets to that point where I absolutely need Wally in order to progress, um, there's nothing I can do for that.
And it
So
doesn't
that's
even,
just
it's still broken even if you go move your cloud save over to another console, it's still just
yeah,
broken.
yeah.
I
That's
see.
just how it is. Yeah, because I've been playing between Switch, Xbox, and PC. So I mean, the cloud save's been working seamlessly, but yeah, no, that quest is just officially broken no matter what.
Yeah. I haven't
The
had
console's got nothing.
playing on Steam Deck. It never crashed. I've never had anything broken. I've never had any weird glitches or, in the 4 or 5 hours that I've played it, I mean, I haven't seen anything. I mean, it just ran
Yeah, it
fine.
seems to be the most stable on PC for sure.
Yeah.
Xbox has had pretty much no hiccups. I know it crashed oddly enough just once for my girlfriend randomly, but other than that we saw, we've been putting a lot of hours into the Xbox version. I mean, the Xbox version probably has over 50 hours at this point, maybe 60,
Jeez.
probably even 70 hours at this point. Yeah, I'm not even joking. And it only crashed once that entire time. The Switch, on the other hand, let me tell you something about that, John. It's every 5 minutes this thing is
Uh,
crashing. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm good. No, I'm
yeah.
good. Let me take a breather right quick. Go ahead.
And
Continue.
when you when
I need to
you
breathe.
when you said that, it was like, oh man, I hate that because I know Nikki's gonna
Yep.
want to buy it, and she doesn't play on anything else, so it's like,
Well,
oh
I'll
crap.
tell you what too is like it's like all things considered, if it wasn't for the crashing, I mean the Switch version is actually really nice, all things considered,
Yeah.
because like it looks good visually, it looks really good, and it's got a lot of pop-in issues, especially when you're in furniture build mode, but otherwise it's visually it looks good. The
Maybe that's
frames
the
are
problem. It looks too good and it can't
yeah,
run it.
Yeah.
maybe that might be it. I don't know, but frame wise, it's acceptable, it's playable, but it's man, the technical issues are just so egregious that it's just not worth the hassle, man. Like,
Yeah.
just avoid it at all costs. Like, it's just, it's nice if you want to do little things here and there. I like playing it, on the Switch still because I still have it installed, for 20 minutes. But that's the max I can get before it just ultimately crashes on me again. So,
That's crazy
yeah,
because you would
it's
think that.
absurd.
Well, and I don't want to say you think that the Switch would be the primary console, but you would think that would be a lot of people would play it on the Switch.
Yeah, like so they'd focus a lot of resources on making sure that
Yeah.
it was somewhat optimized. Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially when most of the people that I've seen that have issues or that have gotten the game, they're like, yeah, I got the Switch version, I got the Switch version, I got the Switch version, especially for those that pre-ordered it. But, once the game officially came out, reviews started going out, I mean, the game's been very well received, but it's the Switch version in particular that everyone's been disappointed with, including the people that really want it on Switch, your wife included, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
so people have just either been skipping out on it, or they do end up buying the base one, even though they want either the deluxe or the ultimate, but they buy the $30 one instead just to be safe. Then they realize, oh my God, what a waste of money, and
Right.
they just end up buying it on Steam or Epic Games or whatever. So, or through Game Pass. So, yeah, it's these people that are unintentionally double dipping because they bought a version that they can't even play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's unfortunate.
yeah, that sucks, but yeah, I mean
It's
it's
like early access is not built for the Switch.
yeah, exactly.
That's not, yeah.
Yeah. I mean either
Because
that
early
or
access is usually not going to be the most optimized because you've put it out and then you're going to be continuing to work on it. So it's
right.
not going to be,
Yeah.
it could run well enough, but it's probably not going to be the most optimized it could be. So therefore, the Switch says, what do I?
Either that or maybe the Switch is getting a little long in the tooth when it comes
I mean,
to
there's also that Switch is getting long in the tooth
I mean, it was
before it was released.
well. That's what I was getting ready to say. It was kind of long in the tooth when it was released. It wasn't. It wasn't the most powerful thing
And
out there. But
Nintendo wasn't trying to do a cutting edge thing, so that's
no,
just,
no, and they
it
never
was always
are.
going to have those issues. Yeah.
But
Well,
now
they
it's
used to, but by the time, like after GameCube, pretty much they're like, "Nah, we're not doing
Yeah,
that
that's
anymore."
pretty
yeah.
much. Yeah.
Well, and I've gotten to the point now where it's like, especially watching the Nintendo Direct, I'm like, oh, that game looks cool. I wonder if it's going to be on Steam. Oh, that game looks cool. Oh man, I wonder if that one's going to be on.
That's
Steam.
different than my reaction, but we'll do that later.
Right?
When we talk about Nintendo Direct.
But I mean, it's like now any Nintendo game, even if it's a Nintendo game, it's like, man, I really wish they put their games on PC so I could run it on the Steam Deck and it would just run better.
I wrote an article about that a while back where I do think they should have their own client. They don't have to go through Steam or Epic Games. Or they're big enough. They just have their own client. Money still 100% goes to them. So.
Well, and the same
whatever.
thing, Sony could do it too. I mean, any of them could if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Sony probably will be doing it.
Yeah.
There are rumors out there about that very exact thing.
Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, so Dennis? Did you a lot of people before the game came out, oh, it's Animal Crossing but Disney. Do you still think after playing it all this time that it's really Animal Crossing but Disney? There's things of Animal Crossing in it, but I don't call that Animal Crossing.
Yeah, no, especially when I think it's interesting because in the grand scheme of things, when we look back on what makes Animal Crossing, it's not as much of a farming sim as you think. Animal Crossing ultimately is just this almost sort of this sort of life
Animal
sim.
Crossing does not have farm sim in it. It's not a
No,
farm sim game.
not well. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. So and I think there's been this sort of misaligned view on what Animal Crossing is, and I think also this sort of innate need to constantly compare everything to Animal Crossing.
Right.
It's two things: Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley. That's the two things everything is because it gets
That's
compared
because
to all the
they're
time.
the popular ones right now.
I mean, these
that
are
category.
right.
So. It's
but
like,
there's
hey,
definitely
let's start comparing Disney Dreamlight Valley to Dark Souls. Let's do that. It's the Dark Souls of something or
Right.
other. We'll figure it out.
with the bugs, I mean, that's what you're fighting against. The bugs, but
but that's not a Dark Souls thing.
No. But these enemies are invisible.
Yeah.
Dreamlight Valley.
Oh, so that's the amnesia of farming sims. Then.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty much where your sanity meter starts going.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what it felt. That's what it feels like, man. Like playing on Switch, like not even joking. That's what it feels like. Like my sanity meter, if you want to talk about amnesia, starts starts. It's I can only take so many. I mean, it got to a point, and I think I wrote about this in my review too, where there was one night where I was just I'm good. We are done probably for today and tomorrow. I need to recoup. I need to speak to someone, therapist, somebody, because this is just so I just the emotional damages that have come from this. I feel like I could sue Gameloft and win. I don't want to though, because they made a great game. It's just the Switch version in particular that's just an absolute mess.
Well,
Um,
and the thing with this game, it feels like it was originally supposed to be on a phone, and then they went, "Hey, we could put this on a console." I mean,
yeah,
it's
for
just
sure.
it seems like it was a phone game, but maybe that's just because I know in the back of my head it's Game Loft. I don't know, maybe I'm being
Yeah, well, right, and that's what I thought of too, because Gameloft has a long history of mobile free-to-play games.
right.
But I will say Gameloft is very good at doing that though. A lot of their games look great and they're optimized really, really well on phones. And their approach to free-to-play to me has always been one of the more reasonable ones, if not the most reasonable one, out of every developer and publisher out there that focuses solely on mobile games. They're definitely one of the more top tier ones, not just in terms of quality, but in terms of consumer respect. My only issue with Gameloft has always been, however, that I wish they utilized cloud saves more because, for example, Asphalt, like Legends and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then as well as Asphalt 9 and 8 and all the other ones that they've done. Those are great games. I love that series so much, and I've played them on the Windows Store and I've played them on my phone as well, various ones. But my issue has always been like, man, especially the most recent one, which I played a lot of on my phone before it came out to consoles, because now you can get Legends, I think, on Xbox and on Switch,
I think so.
and they look great, they run great. But even though I have an account, I've done a lot on my phone, and even though I would absolutely prefer to play those games with a controller, whether it's on Switch, Xbox, PC, whatever, um, I hate that I just haven't been able to transfer my stuff. Even though you can log in with your Gameloft account, but that doesn't do anything other than well, I'm not sure what it does. It doesn't do anything. You just log into your Gameloft account. So it's really in the grand scheme of things, it's pointless. But this is the first game finally that they've had cloud saves with, and that was the big thing I was worried about for so long is does it have cloud saves? Does it have cloud saves? Does it have cloud saves? And then
Right.
I had the pleasure of interviewing them about 2 months ago, give or take, and then they finally confirmed like yes, we're gonna have cloud saves. I was like, bless, because cloud saves is the reason why I double, triple, quadruple dip on some games, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You this game, I mean, granted it's on Game Pass, but if it wasn't on Game Pass, I would have happily dropped the $30 on it on Xbox, right? So, and the game's gonna be free to play anyway, so I mean, it'll end up being free regardless. But for the Founders Pack, I would have happily $30 on Switch, $30 on PC, $30 on Xbox. That's 90 bucks you made right there, which without cloud saves, you would have just made 30. So you made an additional $60 because of your
Right.
cloud saves. Because now I love that freedom of being able to play
Mm-hmm.
anywhere and how I want to play. You know. Sure, people have main consoles, and they're gonna be like, "Well, I usually play, on Xbox anyways. I have a PS4 when I play on the Xbox, so why would I buy it there?" Fair enough, but I'm the type of person that, I, sometimes I like to play on the TV, sometimes I like to play on my computer, sometimes I like to just rest in bed and play a
Right.
handheld.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the situation, depending on what room I'm in, and the mood I'm in, it can just, I just want to play the games where I want to play them. I
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't have to explain that,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
that, so not having that limitation of, oh, well, you better pick and choose because there's no cloud saves
Right.
is really, really nice. And honestly, a live service game like this, and all live service games from now on, I can't stand. Like, I have no interest in a live service game when there's no cloud saves, because then you're essentially forcing me to pick, uh, you know, a, a platform to dedicate myself to.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and I just play on different platforms for different reasons. Even if it's the same game,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's again, Switch is a great complementary system to other consoles and PCs. So, if I want to play 10 or 20 minutes, you know, then maybe I'll get on my phone. If I want to, if I'm really tired throughout the day and I just want to lay down in bed until I go to sleep, then I'll play on my Switch, right? If I'm in the living room, I want to play on a big TV, then I'll play on my Xbox, right? If I'm at my desk and I have some time to kill, then I'll play on my PC. So being having when you're able to accommodate for all of those reasons and situations and strokes of life basically, it just makes the appeal of a game grow substantially for me.
Oh yeah.
And
It's good to have
yeah,
options.
Yeah, it is.
yeah,
And
exactly.
Xbox
So,
has spoiled me because of that. Because you could
well, they're
go
cloud saves
the
too.
cloud saves they've had forever.
Yeah,
It's a 360. I could just pop
yeah.
in a 360 game on my Series X that I haven't played in 10 years, and all of a sudden, hey, you remember that game save you had on the 360? It's on the cloud. Here you go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, because I don't remember where I was at in that game 10 years ago. I'm going to start it over anyway.
Right.
But it's like,
Right.
Like, yes, please, I know exactly where it was.
oh yeah, man, the Lost Odyssey. Yeah, I remember this save from 12 years ago. Let me boot it. Oh wait, no, I
Yeah.
don't remember. I'm
Well,
going to start it over anyway. So,
well, it's funny you bring that up because I remember sometime last year, I think we booted up Fable, and I had a very old save from 360, Fable Anniversary, and I had a very, very old save, and I was like, I don't remember, like
I
what
don't
this is, but
know.
thanks for keeping me up to date. That's great.
Yeah, I
You know?
appreciate it, but I don't have a clue. It's like, but yeah, so. But yeah, I mean, that's the way I am. And before I got the Steam Deck, it was like, well, I'll buy it on Switch, and I'll probably buy it on Xbox. But now it's like, well, I'll probably buy it on Steam, and then I might buy it on Xbox, but I may just buy it on Steam. It's like the other day. It's like I wanted to play Octopath Traveler. It was on my Switch. I didn't have it with me, and then Octopath Traveler was still $60 on Steam, and then it goes on sale, and I'm like, oh well, I'll buy it again, so I'll have it on Steam. It's like, well, during the Nintendo Direct, Octopath Traveler 2 is coming out. It's like, well, I'm not buying it on Switch, I'm buying it on Steam because I want to play it on my Steam Deck. So it's like,
I also think what's interesting, speaking of Octopath Traveler 2, and I mean, we'll get to it once we get to the notes, but since we're on the topic of that one right away, not exclusive this time around. But they
no.
made it seem like it, but no, it's multi-platform. It's coming, PC,
It's
Xbox,
even coming on
PlayStation, Switch,
PlayStation,
everywhere.
and
Just like
Octopath's
the
not
first
on there.
game, it just took longer for the first game.
Was
That's
Octopath
true,
ever
yeah.
came on PlayStation 5 or 4 yet? Is it on there now?
I know it's on. Well, actually, that's a good question.
I don't know.
I don't remember.
Look,
I have to look too. But anyway,
'cause I didn't care for that
sure.
game. I just remember seeing it pop up all the time.
yeah. But yeah, that's all I've played. I don't. I tell you what, you and Nathaniel's got a game that's kind of the same too. So I'll let Nathaniel go first, and then
Okay.
he can work into.
Yeah, all
work
right.
into that. So,
Jumping all around.
yeah. So go ahead, Nathaniel, because Dennis has got a long list, so I don't know how long it's going to take.
I mean, when does he ever have a short list, though?
I
is the
know
thing.
he never has.
Like,
a
if we do a
list.
podcast and then we do a podcast 2 days later, he'd still probably have a same length of a thing somehow. He'd
More
figure
or
it out.
less, yeah.
He's like, oh, I gotta play 24/7 so I can have a big list for the podcast. I finished Greedfall since the last time we recorded, and I don't remember how far I was in it at the last time because it's been like 3 weeks since the last one we recorded. But finished that up, probably like 30 hours or something total for that game, somewhere in there. It's not, a super long game, but I
Right.
played the crap out of it. Got way too OP by the end of it. Magic in that game starts off as seeming, okay, this is kind of OP, but then by the time you get fully into it, except for a few like boss fights or bigger enemies, it's just very super OP. So there's some stuff later in the game where you have to go in places and you have like groups of enemies, and if they're like, yo, you're ambushed by a bunch of human bandits, you just run into the group of them and hit this area of effect attack, and then they're all dead. Because your magic has been leveled up so much by that point, because I pretty much like focused on the magic part for all the like the skill tree and stuff. So it's just like, hey, you're all dead.
That's funny.
Maybe I have to hit it twice if it's creatures or something. But yeah, I don't know. That game's really fun. I don't know. It's not a perfect game. It's got some jank to it, but it's still a lot of fun to play. So, and like, there's some parts of it that are like really, really good, and then there's some parts that are like, okay, this is a little janky, but the whole package together is like more than the sum of its parts, I think, and that's probably why it did so well. course, I don't know. Maybe it was more janky when it first came out, and they've patched it a bunch at this point. But who knows?
I don't remember hearing a lot about jank when it came out, but there may have been. Who knows?
I'm not sure because I can't go back in time and
No,
see what that is. 'Cause I just
I
don't
can't remember what I did half time yesterday, so don't ask me something from a year or longer ago, or however long it's been.
So, Greedfall I finished, and about 2 or 3 days after I finished it, a new game by Spiders came out. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play that because it looked pretty good. It looked like something I would like to play. I enjoyed Greedfall, and I got some decent-ish reviews. And plus, I think when I pre-ordered it a couple days early, it was like reviews weren't even out. It was just like previews of like a extended like couple hours or something. I think people got to play with it, and they were pretty good. And then when reviews came out, it's getting like 7s and 8s, which I would probably put it at least 8, maybe a little higher for me. The other thing that I'm running into on this one is performance. It needs to be a little bit optimized because it's like, hey, this game looks pretty good, but it doesn't look good enough to be like really, really bogging down as much as it is. It sometimes struggles to get above 60. And like that's even if turning all the settings down, it still does that. So it's like sometimes no matter if I'm on like super high settings or low settings, it's still the same frame rate. So like something weird's going on, but it's still good enough that it's playable. But if Greedfall was kind of like their attempt at doing kind of a BioWare-like RPG game, Steel Rising is a new game that came out, like a little over a week and a half ago, something like that. It is kind of their take on a From Software game, on kind of like a Souls-like game. And in it, you play it's kind of alternate history French Revolution where King Louis XVI has a bunch of automatons everywhere killing people. And you're playing as like the one good automaton. I guess your name is like Aegis or something like that. I can't remember. But you meet Marie Antoinette at the very start of the game, and she sends you out like, "Hey, go do this thing," and then you go off on this like quest, and then it branches out from there. But it's very much structured like. I'd say the most that they borrow from is probably Bloodborne, because it's not slow combat, and it also cribs some exact things from Bloodborne. Like Bloodborne is the only Souls-like game really where they have these doors that had like NPCs behind them that you could talk to, or sometimes they would just talk as you walk by. This game does that. There's a few random windows that like they have a special little kind of like thing that hangs over the window so you can know. Plus, when you get relatively close, you don't have to get super close. They start like talking, so it's like, oh hey, I'll pay attention to this one. There's not a ton of them, but they're here and there in different levels, at least in kind of about the 10 hours I've played so far. But you can pick different weapon types, and they have different animations and speeds and weights and all that stuff, just like a Souls game. You have enemies that are somewhat difficult to really difficult, depending on how much you've leveled up your stats or how good of this type of game you are. How good you are playing this type of game. There you go. That's probably a little better way to put it. And it's not as hard as a FromSoft game. Plus, it does have what they call assists, so you can turn on some assists in there to make it easier for yourself if you're not as good at these games. So you can put, I didn't actually look at it, but I think it's like enemy damage down and some other stuff, something like that, just to kind of make it a little easier for you. I didn't turn any of them on though, because I like these games. I like when they're a little difficult.
Right.
And so far, not super difficult at all. The earlier part was I had to do a little bit of a grind at the start just to kind of like upgrade a couple times so I had a little more health, and then since then I haven't had too much difficulty. It's just more like, okay, this is what I would expect difficulty-wise from kind of a FromSoft type of a game. But you have kind of like 2 weapons that you can have equipped at a time, and you can switch between them by hitting up on the D-pad. You can switch between A and B weapon, so it's a little different than from like a Souls game where they have kind of like, or like a Dark Souls where you have like a left hand, right hand, or in like Bloodborne you just always had them, and your left hand gun thing was more of like a parry thing rather than an actual gun. So this is a little bit different combat system, and a little bit more simple of a combat system than the Souls games, because you don't have like backstabs or parries in this game, or if they do, I haven't figured it out, which is weird because I've tried a bunch of things. And I don't think they have parry specifically because there is one weapon, like every weapon has kind of like a special ability button. So it's a little more kind of like Elden Ring where they tied the stuff to the shields and things. So like your weapon, some weapons will have a shield that I've picked up. Some will have like a special ability where you do like a flurry of, sword swipes or whatever. There's a whole bunch of different cool weapons in this game. So the ones I'm picking kind of like a fast character. So I started as like a dancer class. And so I've got these fan blades. So it looks like kind of like expandable fans made of metal, but then you can expand them into a full like circle with both of them
Yeah,
to
that's
be a shield.
what I was seeing there in the trailer. It was
Yeah, it's the one that you see a lot of in the trailer. But there's some other stuff where you have kind of like a ball on a chain kind of a thing, and so it's one of those where you like swing it around and do like a whole bunch of different hits with it. There's a thing where you have like kind of like a dual wielded short sword daggery type thing. There's some heavier hammer like weapons I found. I haven't experimented with all of them. My but the best one that you get that I like for my playstyle is like you pick up this kind of gun thing that does freezing damage. And if you do light attack with it, it does kind of like a little double tap kind of pistol shot. But if you do the strong attack, it's more like a shotgun. And then this game also has like charged strong attacks that you can do for whatever weapon. So if you do a charged shotgun attack, you can pretty much insta freeze most of the enemies that I've encountered so far, and then you can get a free big powerful hit on them while they're sitting there frozen, and they'll like take a bunch or all of their health off depending on what the quality of the enemy is wherever you're at in the game. So that's been my fun strategy to this point. It's like, oh, I could duel some of these enemies, and that's fun. But no, I'm just gonna freeze you and then smash you. So like, it's all robots. You do interact with some humans, so they're more like NPCs. So I've met maybe half a dozen or so different characters that are kind of. Some of them are historical figures like Marie Antoinette, and some of them are probably also historical figures, just less recognizable unless you're really into the French Revolution and know who everybody is.
right. Yeah.
And then there's just like lots of dead people around because part of the plot of the game is, hey, all these automatons are taken over and they've killed a bunch of people, so you'll like see some of them just lying in kind of like environmental storytelling stuff. But yeah, like the way you upgrade, you have like some different stats you can upgrade, kind of like a Souls game would be. So like you can upgrade your agility, your power for power weapons. You can upgrade what they call engineering, which gives you more armor. And like each thing you upgrade affects some of the different stats that you have. Then you also have kind of, I guess the best way to think of it would be perk slots. So you have to unlock them, but once you unlock them, you get kind of like 4 different slots that you can put in like things that are like, hey, you have more resistance to electric damage, or you have a little bit more endurance or whatever, and you can slot whatever you want in there as you find these things, and they all would be kind of like perks would be in like a different style of RPG. Is sort of what those are, and then as part of the upgrade system, there you have hey, this slot is level 1, but if you upgrade it to level 2, you can put grade level 2 versions of these things in here as you find them. So you kind of have to upgrade your capacity or the quality of your slots as you go. Otherwise, you won't be able to equip the cooler ones that you find. You also have basically the equivalent of a flask in this game, like you would have for Dark Souls or Elden Ring, where it's like you have it and then it refills when you go to the statues that are in this game. They're like the bonfires or the grace sites in Elden Ring. Similar type of thing. You have like little statues that you get that come up out of the ground, and you can use them to like upgrade things, buy stuff. Yeah.
Looks cool.
And yeah, it looks really nice. I wish it ran a little bit better, but it still runs well enough that it's still easily playable, and I'm having a lot of fun with it so far.
Cool. Yeah, it looks really neat. It's Steam, I think. I don't know why, but it's recommended that game to me. It's like I haven't played any kind of Souls games on on
I mean, it's just
Steam.
probably because it's a newer one by a studio that's like at least a certain size recognizable, and they'll start promoting it no matter if you
Yeah.
played anything somewhat tangentially like one of their previous games, or something that's more like one of their previous games and less like this new one, but they still might promote it. Like who knows what the Steam algorithm
Right.
does
Yeah.
sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know, this one's a lot of fun, and I would say like with the assists that you can turn on, you could probably try it if it looks interesting to you because it's definitely a very unique setting. It's really cool
Yeah.
so far,
Yeah.
and all of the like weapons are unique too. It's not just like, oh, this is just a sword and this is just an axe and this is just a halberd or something. They're all very different than that, and they're really fun. So it's makes it a lot more interesting. Like I'm like, oh, I don't have the stats to really do damage with that one, but it's really cool. I'm gonna try it out for a little bit.
Yeah. Looks neat.
And you're playing as a robot, so I don't know, it's fun. It has like the weirdest thing about it though is like all the animations are really really good except for the default kind of like jogging because you have like normal very slow walk you can toggle on. You have your normal kind of jogging speed and then you have a sprint speed. And the jogging speed, you look like you're moving and putting too much effort for the actual speed you're going. They didn't like quite dial in the animation just right. So it just feels like what are you doing? Like what? Like everything else in the game looks pretty good, but I don't know. Spiders isn't a huge studio, so they'll probably be patching it, but who knows how long it'll take them to get around to things because
Right.
they can only have so much manpower. And if they do, they'll probably be going on some of the bugs they found versus like, hey, that animation, some people think it looks a little weird.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, I will definitely be playing more of that. I also started playing Weird West on Game Pass. I started on Xbox for a little bit and then went to PC, which is the place to play it. Like, it is a lot harder to do on like a gamepad.
Gotcha.
Like you can, but it just I don't know. The aiming is much easier to do with a mouse, especially if you're trying to run and gun through an area that has a bunch of enemies. It's like, oh hey, trying to be like precisely move, you would get swarmed a little bit easier, I think, on the gamepad. Plus, some of the inventory stuff is just I wanted to play it with mouse and keyboard. Plus, it runs a little more smooth on the computer than it did on the Xbox.
Right.
But yeah, that game is very much like a isometric top-down RPG style look, but with Dishonored DNA in it.
Okay.
Which the studio that does it is the guy who used to work for Arcane, one of the two people who founded Arcane, and then split like somewhere around 2018 or something to found this studio, and this is the first game they've put out. And his aesthetic is very much for Dishonored then apparently because all the menus in this game have like very similar feel to like menus and stuff in Dishonored. A lot of the sound effects sound similar to kind of what you would have in Dishonored. So it's very much this guy's style, I think. Or it must be, or it just happened to go that way. It was like this just feels a lot like Dishonored in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Not so much in like gameplay or anything like that, just kind of just like almost the feel of it or whatever. Even somewhat with the world building that they have in this game is different than Dishonored, but I don't know, it just has some similar vibes to me. Like if I didn't know that, I probably would have guessed like, wait, did someone on this game work on Dishonored? Because it feels like that. But yeah, like you play as different people apparently. Because I finished the story earlier today for the first person, so I've done the first journey. You wake up at the start of the game and your husband has been kidnapped by these outlaws and your son is dead and you're gonna go pick up your bounty hunter guns and go after him, even though you thought you were retired. Like, well, not gonna be retired anymore. I'm gonna go get my husband back, and that's the first kind of story. So you have to go and track down through different places and eventually find out where he is, and then go and rescue him. Is kind of like the whole first act of the game. And based on kind of what happens in between, I think there's probably 4 or 5 different characters that you play. The second one, I just got the start intro like cutscene for it, and I'm a pig man, so that's gonna be fun. So you start as just like, you're cool, like gunslinger kind of bounty hunter woman, and you're going to get your husband back, and then the next one is like, yo, you're a pig man, and you have like a cleaver to start with.
Yeah, it's on my list to play eventually.
So it's got a lot of the same kind of what's the word I'm looking for? But like Dishonored and things where you have like, hey, if you have this ability, you can sneak in this way, or hey, if you've got these abilities, you can, go through the front and cut through the guys a lot easier, or this or that. So you have different things, like different alternate paths you can find. Or if you're just observant about the environment, you're like, hey, if I climb up on this thing, then I can get on the rooftop and then sneak down through a thing. Or, hey, this well, it lets me go down in here if I have a rope, so then I can go in through a cellar and sneak in that way. Or if you want to go slow and you get behind the guys, you can just like knock them all out and sneak your way in, or you're just like, screw that, I'm going in guns blazing and I'm going to do my cool superpowered dive roll where it goes into slow motion bullet time, which is like as I'm diving through the air. You can do either one. It's fun. Yeah. I've done both. I'll sneak in and then oops, someone saw me, and then I'm like, well, fine, I got bullets for you. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah,
that's like, I'll throw or it's like, hey, you guys are just sitting around here next to this explosive barrel. Let me just toss a dynamite by your feet and blow up 3 guys at once. That'll be good. All sorts of just environmental things like that, or ways things interact. Kind of like the poison in that game, you can ignite it with electricity damage. So if you see a poison barrel, you can set that out and set them on, get them all poisoned. But if there's a poison cloud, you can blow that up too. Like there's all sorts of fun, just kind of like different systems that you can exploit if you want to.
That's cool. I've heard good things. It looked like a game I'd really like. I haven't played. I haven't.
Yeah, like it came out in February or something this year. It hasn't been out
I
super
think
long,
I think I downloaded it on the Xbox. I just haven't booted it up yet, I think.
Yeah, it's a cool little game. I'll be definitely working through and probably finish that one as well.
Cool.
So there we go. I had to get it right. Last one I've been playing that Dennis has also played is a game called Immortality, and I should probably put game loosely because there's not a lot of game to the game. Which is kind of like,
for the course.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third one of these I think that this guy has put out, like this type of game, and it's almost like, what if we have a bunch of movie clips, and then we combine that with a hidden object game? That's almost what this is. So you can pause it at any time in any clip, and you can move your cursor around, and it will highlight on things you can interact with. So you can like point at somebody's face, or you can point at like a plant on a table, or a cup of water, or a chair, or a bunch of different things depending on what clip you're in. And then the AI or whatever, I forget how it promotes it, but it basically like goes to another clip that has something similar. So if you click on an actor's face, it will go to another clip in another place from the same person, or hey, here's a cup of water, here's a different scene with another cup of water or something. Or you click on coffee and hey, here's someone holding coffee in a different scene. And that's how you kind of unlock clips and get more things to kind of sort of figure out what's going on. That's sort of a mystery of like, was it like this actress had 3 different movies that she made that none of them ever made it out, and you're trying to figure out what happened to her or something, and I think the game fails. Or I'm dumb. One of the two. Like, it's interesting for a while, and you're like, hey, this is cool. And then these achievements start popping up, like, you figured out what happened to so-and-so, or you found the secret to this thing. I'm like, I did?
Okay.
Cool. Or what happened to me once was I went back to the main menu. Like you're just inside clips and playing them and just bouncing around forever. Or you can back out to kind of like the main area that has them all like a gallery of them basically. And I popped back out there once and like 6 or 7 different achievement popped in a row because they didn't pop at the time I actually did it. So I'm like, I don't know what half of these were. I know what that one is, but like these 3, I'm like, okay, I guess I figured something out. Cool. I think the thing for me that I don't like about it is it's just a little bit too unstructured. That I think it could do a better job of, once you have figured something out, showing you that somehow, like in case you didn't quite put all the pieces together, or because you played it on like one day and then 3 days later you played it some more, and then a couple days later you played it some more, and you don't remember what you did the first day. I think it could do a better job of like maybe doing something like grouping things. So like once you say like, you figured out what happened to so and so, then if you had like a section where it would have all these relevant clips together, I think that might have helped it out for me, because like you can favorite clips yourself and all of that, which it works, but you don't know what's relevant necessarily when you're going through, and then you also forgot like, hey, what did I do yesterday? I don't remember. So it's all on you to remember things, and I think there's some coolness to that, but I think they could have gone a little bit away from that just a little bit in order to kind of help you actually know what's going on. Or like, oh, hey, I figured that out, but I want to remember what this other thing was, but what clip was that? I don't know. I have to go dig and find it. If you had a better way to have it where you could just go, hey, these ones all together, kind of tell a little bit of the story, then I think that would be cooler. But I mean, that might just be me too. It's like maybe a me thing. It's not a must play for everyone. It's definitely something you'd have to be like, yeah, I kind of want to do that.
Right. Interesting.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was just kind of like, okay, I played it a couple like fairly long sessions and like unlocked a bunch of stuff. It's supposedly like, hey, I know what happens to this and this. And I was like, yeah, just kind of done with it. So it's also kind of like, I don't know how far into it. I played it like several hours. It's like, I don't know how much of a completion of it that I actually did, because I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't tell you. It doesn't have like a percentage anywhere. I'm like, I unlocked tons of clips and found some weird stuff going on. Cool. But it's like, found a bunch of the backwards things, because if you go backwards, you can unlock like this weird alternates are the word.
There's like an overlapping image, that sorts of.
Oh, have you not actually done them, or have you just seen that there's like flickers?
No. I've seen some of the clips. Only 2 so far, though.
Oh, there's a lot of them. So you start picking up on like the sound cue. So if you're just playing it, there's kind of like this drone, almost kind of sound effecty noise that'll come up whenever there is one of those things you can get by going backwards. And then you kind of have to like start going backwards and hit the correct speed, kind of lock it in, and you play this alternate like clip. And the fun thing is like when you're playing it, then the forward and backwards are reversed for you, because it's almost like you flipped the film reel.
Yeah, it's. I noticed that last night actually. That was like, that threw me off. I was like, wait, I'm trying to get to the beginning, yet I'm at the end. It was weird.
Yeah, it's doing a lot of fun like things of like, what is the nature of art and this and that you kind of sort of piece together as it's going. Plus just you get an idea of the overall storylines of these fake movies that are being, shown to you as you get clips of it. So you're like, okay, the storyline of this one is this one, and this is weird and goofy, and then this one is about like this detective story, and this one is about like twins. So this storyline's kind of like whatever. So you get kind of like different levels of stuff of just like, here's the surface level of what these like movies would have been about. Here's kind of like what you think is going on behind the scenes, because you get clips from the actual movies. You also get clips that are kind of like from rehearsals. You get a few clips that are just kind of like outside of them. They're not from the movies. It might be like a behind the scenes clip, or whatever, just like someone turned a camera on while they were talking on the side of the set somewhere. Yeah, it's all well acted. It's it all works perfectly like it's supposed to. It's just it didn't vibe with me completely. It was just kind of like, okay, this is cool, this is kind of neat. All right, now I'm done. That was kind of my journey with that. So I'm not sure how much Dennis has played of it, but that was kind of like my experience of it. I probably played maybe 5 or 6 total hours, somewhere like that.
Yeah, I would say about half of that for me. Maybe closing in on 3. 3 is a safe bet, I feel. But yeah, I what you had mentioned earlier was like perfect in terms of just like, I wish it wasn't so loose, because it would be nice to have some sort of structure, not in terms of like how you find things, because obviously it would defeat the whole purpose of trying to piece things together if things were just went A, B, C, D. But just what you had mentioned of just like trying to, what you do find and what you do make sense of, you can categorize into sort of like folders, basically. Because if you don't play for a couple of days, which is literally, because I played for the first time last night since probably a week ago, and yeah, so yeah, it took a second for me to like really have to recapture everything and think about
like,
what was going on.
What was going on? I don't know. Let me just keep clicking on all the houseplants today. Let's find out what happens next.
I got an achievement where there's one particular section where you can select 10 objects in one frame. You get an achievement for that. And that was in one of the parts where I'm just trying to remember which movie it was, the more modern one. And there's one of the actresses clearly does not like the main girl, Maria or Heather or whatever name she goes by, and because she has like three or four or five different names. So, but yeah, and but there was a lot happening in that sequence, so I was just kind of selecting everything there. But no, I mean, how you said it was basically perfect. I mean, it is a very unique sort of twist on really truly a hidden object game, and you're just trying to make the most sense of what's going on with each of these films and why neither of them got released, and ultimately what happened to this actress as well.
I know
Um,
exactly what happened to her. Well, I say exactly. I found the clip that shows what happened to her. I'm like, okay, that doesn't really make sense, but okay, I guess that's what you're going for.
okay. Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet, so things are still sort of unraveling.
Yeah, you
And
have to get a lot
but
more of the backwards clips before you can get to that because they will unlock certain things. Sometimes they'll just like be a one-off thing, or sometimes it'll lead down a chain of things that you wouldn't get otherwise.
yeah. Yeah, I've only gotten two of them so far. And then another one, not necessarily a third one, but when I was going backwards at one point, it was crazy because the image of the actual scene, it almost kind of scared me actually for a second, almost like flipped on itself. It wasn't an actual video that you could see, but it was just sort of like almost like an alternate dimension sort of picture that had happened um, within one particular frame, but it wasn't a video. And it just threw me off guard. I was like, oh my God. But it was really neat. But yeah, I mean, seeing it as more of like a hidden object game, but in an FMV style, utilizing FMVs is probably the best way to put it. I initially didn't really have much interest in it, but that's because I didn't realize it was written by Sam Barlow, who wrote Her Story and Telling Lies before this. So, and those games are very good, very good, but they're also very different because like Nathaniel said, it's this is structured in a way that like you're going through this gallery of various clips, and you have all this footage that you have to essentially assemble yourself to make sense of, and versus before where you do still have a bunch of footage that you have to make sense of, but you were going through what was essentially a database. Right now, this one makes you feel like you're clipping a movie together, basically,
Yeah, like, hey,
versus
you found some boxes of film reels and now you're just digging through them. That's
yeah,
kind of what it is.
basically. Basically, yeah. Versus like, the database sort of format that it had before in both Her Story and Telling Lies. Um, so, you could type stuff in and certain keywords and things like that, and you could look at various things also like, like images and files and stuff like that, and what you can gather from there. Maybe you can find an associated clip with that as well, and just really make sense of it that way. And you felt like more of a detective in especially Her Story, because I mean you're going through a police database, but and then in Telling Lies a little bit more because you're kind of this vigilante really, that's going through well, another database. So but yeah, this one's just
Yeah, this one
you're
you're you. You don't really have like a character.
yeah,
You're just like, hey,
yeah,
yo, player of this game, you want to dig through a bunch of clips? Here you go. You can play
yeah,
forward and backwards. You can do fast forward, fast rewind. You can go back out here and favorite clips. You can pause it at any time and go into like image mode and then click on things. And then we'll show you a different clip. And then you can do the same thing on that one. And then
yeah,
eventually you've unlocked dozens and dozens and dozens of clips and you'll be lost in the weeds and be like, wait, what was this one again? I know I've seen it somewhere.
Uh, but yeah, it's effectively that, and but it's awesome. I mean, like I'm enjoying it, but yeah, a little more because I get into games like this where you really have to, you know, assess and really channel your inner, for lack of a better word, a detective, and try to
Yeah.
really try to make the most sense of all this. And Sam Barlow, his writing is really fantastic. So like it's the way he's able, because honestly, And I remember when Telling Lies came to Switch, I actually had the chance to interview him as well. And because one of the first questions to come to mind was, how do you, for as jumbled up as these games begin, anyways, with her story, with Telling Lies, and now with Immortality, how do you make sense of where to go? How do you turn that into gameplay? Like because any one, okay, using Immortality as an example, any frame can send you any number of ways. I'm always surprised by the things that I can select that will take me to another clip, right? Like things that you wouldn't think that would be selectable. Like you can select whether it's just a table in a kitchen, or a picture on a fridge, or a painting on a wall. And last night I just out of curiosity, and during one of I think it was the second film, I think Ambrosio. No, not Ambrosio. Sorry, the artsy one, whatever one that one is. Um,
It's a character name or something, I think is the title of that
okay.
one. It's like whoever it's
Uh,
the murder mystery where like the
yeah.
super famous artist gets killed and then there's
Yes,
the
that one.
detective and the
Yeah.
muse or whatever character is in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so out of curiosity, because I thought it would be funny, just because again, I'm always surprised by all the things you can select in a scene that will take you to another clip. There's there's one scene where the detective guy was in the studio apartment of the main character, the main girl, and and she was gonna do a portrait of him, and she's like, just take everything off. So I selected his butt, and
I bet I know exactly where it took you to.
it took me actually to a statue bust of a butt.
Yep.
This was where
There's
it took
another
me.
one where there's a weird like, gallery with a few different like kind of plaster statues, and there's a plaster butt that it takes you to because I
Yeah,
did the exact same thing on that clip.
yeah.
Just
But
because I was
again, it
like,
was out of
hey, you can
curiosity.
click on the butt. I wonder where
Yeah,
this will go.
Yeah,
yeah,
why not? Let me just try it and see.
yeah.
You gotta click the butt, man.
Well,
You can't not
yeah,
click
Gotta,
the
man.
butt.
and
Ah.
they knew everybody would. I mean, it's like,
Yeah. Some people smack it, some people click it. It's
I mean, you can
yeah.
click his
it just
butt, or you
depends.
can click his
So,
clothes that he set down on the stool next to him. You can click a bunch of different things.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, no, but it was interesting that it still led to another clip, and I think that's one of the most interesting parts about that game is I find myself revisiting multiple clips because I'm always curious of this. Like again, there's an achievement with that one frame, right? Or that one thing of like select 10 different objects in one frame, and the fact that you can do that with so many clips. It's actually insane,
I
and just the
started
thought
doing the
process.
rabbit holes because it actually is a good way to kind of like keep focus. Like, all right, I'm just gonna keep
Yeah,
clicking
yeah,
on water glasses for a while and see how many you get, and then
yeah,
you start kind of like running into it and like, okay, let me now try a different thing. It helps you kind of almost in your head, like,
yeah,
okay, I think I've got at least the ones of these I can get for now,
yeah.
and then move
Well,
on to
that's the
something
thing.
else.
Yeah, and I actually did that with one of the supporting actresses, um that seemed like she really didn't like her, like both off screen and on screen. And like it just went down this crazy rabbit hole, and it gets super super interesting that way. Um but yeah, but last night in particular I was just kind of going for more key objects. I don't really like just selecting random things. If I see something in a scene that looks like it stands out a little bit, I'll click on that and see where it takes me. But I do like the rabbit hole method a lot too because it keeps things a little more consistent. And then I did unlock quite a few achievements that way
Yeah.
as well.
After you play
Um,
it for a while, I was starting to notice like object archetypes. So like you can almost always you can click on like a candle or a lamp, or there's lots of like water or coffee cups, or there's several ladders for whatever reason that you can click on. There's house plants, there's paintings and photos.
yeah,
So you're like you can get to a new clip and we're like even before you actually pause to look, you're thinking, I bet I could click on this, this, and this. So you know kind of what to look for after a while.
yeah, yeah. It's super interesting, but the way that guy's mind works, where it's just like the fact that you can jumble it up, but then it reassemble that is, but still have the ability to make sense of what's going on within each scene, and using each frame within each scene to lead you to other scenes is just like, I mean, like I get this is an FMV versus something that you have to craft from the ground up in terms of graphics and assets and stuff like that, but that still takes so much storyboard like work. It's
Mhm.
insane. It's
Well,
absolutely
after
insane.
the fact, it takes a lot of like work to be like, okay, we know what we have object wise. We know where it's gonna go to this and this, but just the pure like amount of work that had to go in for like, hey, this object in this scene needs to be tagged, but it moves because the camera's moving. So it's not like you could just put like your little interact
Right.
button right here. It has
Right.
to like track to everything that it's, and sometimes if it gets blocked by something else, then it goes away. You can't click it anymore.
Right.
So just all the painful details that they had to do to put in
Yeah.
there for that is just like, oh,
Mhm.
that sounds tedious.
Yeah. It sounds wild, honestly, because
It
that's what I'm
seems
thinking of.
less of a game to me than it seems more like just an interesting toy to poke and prod at. That's what it feels a lot
Yeah.
more like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely one of the most unique forms of storytelling, I think, because it is, I think, in the purest sense, what interactive media is. Interactive entertainment in terms of video games, there's a lot that goes into it in terms of button inputs and, of course, the visuals and how things react on screen, but how things work in terms of physics and, collision and so on and so forth. But when something is, what you are effectively watching a movie that is, in in shambles before you eventually have to glue it back together, it's honestly, it's fascinating to me. It really is. Like, it just blows my mind. So, but yeah, but this game's been really interesting and really, really great. And another, solid, credit to put under Sam Barlow's name. But it's, I wasn't going to play it at first, interestingly, until I saw a lot of people talk about like how Immortality was kind of just, just one big mind explosion, basically, to say it
What
nicely.
starts out as
Yeah,
just a
I
bunch
knew
of
where you
movie
were.
clips, by the
Yeah.
time you get, I don't know, like the end, there's probably a bunch of stuff I've missed, but there's more supernatural in it than you would guess.
Yeah.
We'll go with
That makes
that.
sense. Yeah. That makes sense. I was kind of getting feelings of that, honestly, but
And a lot
that
of
yeah,
like, oh, okay, we're going to be intentionally vague so that we can leave a lot of things up to your interpretation.
yeah, yeah,
It's one of those.
yeah. It's interesting. Like for example, but this one's, I'm excited to see when I do get down to that point that you're talking about, Nathaniel, because like I want to see how I end up jumping into that section versus something like Telling Lies or like Her Story. Well, I'll use Telling Lies as more of an example because I never beat Her Story, but I did beat Telling Lies. And what happens with Telling Lies is after so many clips, because you have to be out of there by, I think you're trying to get out of there by 5 a.m. After so many clips, time does pass on the computer that you're on, and you can see the time pass by. It's 12:30, then it's 1, then it's 1:30, so on and so forth. 2:15, whatever. And by 5 a.m., whether you've found it or not, you know, the game will sort of end. But you can go through a lot of that game before. So chances are you'll find what you're looking for before 5 a.m. Um, but I found it like right at 5 a.m. the ending basically, at least for one part. But as is with these sorts of games, and like Nathaniel said, there is multiple endings because everyone's got a story to tell, right? In the case of Immortality, like she has her own story, but I'm sure there's a story for the director. I'm sure there's a story for the main guy, that looks like Jesus. I'm sure there's a story for for, for someone else. But
You're not wrong.
no, I keep thinking he's Jesus, man. I'm telling you.
I mean, like the first of the movies is like an erotic thriller set in old-timey church kind of
Yes.
monastery. That's what I'm looking for. Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
yeah.
blah, blah. Yeah, we'll get there.
Mm.
And the main dude is kind of like this dude who's in robes and has like a nice beard and longer hair and like
Yeah.
looks kind of like Jesus. Now that you say that,
Yeah.
I didn't think of that, but as soon as you said it, I laughed because it's true.
Yeah.
That's totally
That's
what they were going for.
yeah, that's all I've been thinking of is just like this is just a retelling, man. That's it. Yeah. Uh, but but yeah,
I
no,
mean, that storyline goes way different than if he was actually Jesus for sure.
oh for sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
That was
Especially
not the
like
point
with
of that movie that they're making.
no,
It's
no, no.
definitely
Yeah.
erotic thriller would be an apt descriptor.
Yeah. Yeah. But but in the case of Telling Lies, you technically have is it 4 stories? I want to say, is it 3 or 4 stories? No, 4 stories. You have 4 stories going on at once. Well, 4 main characters, anyways. There's a bunch of side stories, but 4 main stories going on at once, and you realize very quickly that really the main guy, the not Tom Hardy, his name's like Lance something, I don't know, but uh, not the Tom Hardy doppelganger guy. He he he's pretty much the main character of Telling Lies, and I got to his ending, which was absolutely wild. Um, but yeah, I would imagine there's multiple endings, and it basically comes down to, are you satisfied with the ending that you got? If not, keep searching. You know.
Yeah, I mean, this game doesn't really have endings. It's not
Yeah, not
like,
really.
hey,
Yeah,
here's the ending and credits roll. It doesn't
right.
have that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Immortality are really really enjoyable so far, and I'm excited to keep playing it. But yeah, after that, speaking of crazy stories, I've been playing a little bit of Doki Doki Literature Club Plus on Nintendo Switch, and that game.
How can they
So
charge for that game is what I think, because I played it for free back when it came out on PC. So
they did.
whenever I see that, I'm just like, oh, okay, really? They're charging for that?
Yeah.
I better
Yeah.
be some
So
plus in that plus.
there's definitely a lot of plus. There's a whole lot of plus. They not to mention they redid a lot of the assets, and but it's the extras, and because there are like new side stories and stuff like that that you can go through it, and
Yeah.
they're a
I
lot
think
of fun.
originally when I played, it was like maybe 2 or 3 hours or something at most. It wasn't
Oh
very
yeah, it's
long.
definitely longer
Yeah.
this time around. Yeah, it's definitely. I want to say it's double that. I want to say it's like 6 or 7 hours
Yeah.
now, because I just went through my first credit sequence last night actually, and but I've just been doing a lot of the side stuff since then, and but it's awesome. But honestly, like yes, I mean even though you're charging for it now, there's not like it's $15, you know, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not,
that's not
you know.
nothing crazy.
Yeah, so going from free to 15, I mean that's reasonable versus something that used to be free and then it's just like, hey, $60, Final Fantasy 7. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah.
70 bucks.
$70, yeah, that's right.
Hey, I mean, it had to be 70 because it's 7, right? You couldn't charge anything
That's true.
different,
That's
right?
true. I gotta keep it on brand.
Yep.
But you want to talk about stories that go in directions that you're not expecting, man.
Oh,
It's
that thing
so
gets very demented. Doki Doki
yes,
Literature Club is insane.
yes. It's let me put it this way. If you're not familiar with it and you're looking at it now as we talk about this, and you're probably looking at it going, "Oh, this is just another typical, anime, probably bishoujo,
It's a trap.
visual
That's what they want
novel."
you to think. It's a
Yeah,
trap.
exactly. And I love it. I love that it's a trap because it's that yin and yang and that bait and switch that like really takes you by surprise that I think is absolutely awesome.
Hey, this
And
looks super cute. Oh crap, this is super dark. What the heck just happened? Yeah, it's one of those.
because you're looking at this probably going like, oh, this reminds me of 100% orange juice. Oh, I promise you it's not. I promise you it's not. Which is also I think that's free on Steam also. But then there's another one called like Without Me or something, which is also another great free visual novel. But I promise you, it is not what you think it is. It is this crazy, twisted. Oh my lord! It goes down a rabbit hole that is like absolutely gruesome, and the way they like it's so smooth too. The transition, like the writing is so well done in the way it goes from like what you expect it to be when you don't know what to expect into being, going into that twisted sort of very horrific, morose,
Yeah.
gruesome territory, because it starts to have big vibes of like Corpse Party and things like that. It's
I
oh my
wonder
lord.
how they port it to Switch for some very specific things late in the game where you had to do stuff outside of the game on PC to be, vague about it, where you kind of had to mess around with some
Yeah,
files or something. It's
yeah.
been a while since I played
So
it, so it's like, well, you
yeah,
can't do that on Switch. So I wonder what they changed it
right.
to.
So I'll answer that. There's actually a virtual OS in the game.
Hmm,
So
gotcha.
the game basically, even before you get to the main menu, well, actually, even never mind the menu.
Mhm.
Even before you get to the main menu, before you even get to like, when you boot up a game, the studio logo comes up, publisher logo comes up, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, the moment you hit you boot up that game, it tells you right away that it's pretty much the splash screen of like, this game is disturbing, not intended for children or sensitive people,
Yep.
basically. It tells you that right away. And
And for the first little while that you're playing it, you'll be like, "What was that warning? That doesn't make any
right, right,
sense." Oh.
right.
Oh, okay, I get a little bit. I
Oh
get a
yeah,
little bit, and then you get further, you're like, "Oh, okay, I get it a lot."
yeah,
Oh no.
yeah. It, it gets pretty
Like, "Oh,
crazy.
no."
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a virtual OS. So basically, when you boot up the game, it actually takes you to what would essentially be a normal desktop. And in the Windows bar, you have Start Doki Doki Literature Club. You can look through the files. You can look through a music player that because there's a soundtrack included. You can look through a gallery, through all the stuff that you unlocked in game, as well as newer illustrations as well, both fan submitted ones and just newer ones the team did. And just a plethora of other content, and yeah, and you can even change the wallpaper with some of the some of the gallery stuff that you get too, which is really cool. But yeah, the files, that's because that you're going to be tweaking without spoiling too much. You are going to be tweaking quite a bit of the files, and but yeah, I mean they made it pretty seamless and pretty easy to do on there. The files and the folders are labeled as you would expect them to be. Like there's going to be your own there's a readme.txt. There's your asset files and things like that, level files. The background music that are all .ogg files and things like that. So um, yeah, I mean it's what you would expect. But yeah, no, I mean the game, without spoiling it gets into some very twisted territory, and you start to witness a lot of um a lot of blood. I'll just leave it like that.
How can I put this in? No, I can't say that. Ah, screw it. Blood.
Yeah, yeah. There's just a lot of blood. I'm not gonna say how, why, where, or what leads to it.
Your
Um,
eyes bleed from all the text.
but
No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
it's well, even the text gets crazy. Everything gets crazy,
Yeah,
not just in
yeah.
terms of how it's written, but just what happens on screen. To me, I don't know, it was just blowing my mind because it went the extra mile of making a visual novel not just feel like a visual novel of like press A to get to the next line of dialogue. When things were messing up, it actually felt like the game was messing up, and it was just really well done. I mean, that game is just it's really well written, and it's fantastic, honestly. It really is. It really is. And if you love visual novels and you haven't played this yet, I mean, really do yourself a favor and play this. If you're not a visual novel person, um, I do think you'll still get some sort of enjoyment out of this. It's palatable.
If you're
It's
listening, I
it's
just raised my head.
so it's palatable in terms of like it's still not going to ask too much of your time. Like it's double. I would say it's double the length than it was originally because they did add a lot more material to it. But it's still something that you can get through relatively quickly, if you can just spend, I don't know, a couple hours with it, really just spend a day, or a night, maybe 2 or 3 nights, treat it like you would a normal book, and you're gonna go and your mind's gonna be blown. It's crazy, especially with the direction it goes. It's just I never, like you think where certain twists go, but with this game, I mean, it was just I don't know. It was just but that's another reason why I absolutely fell in love with it. Is just it just went God knows what direction. Um, yeah, yeah. But that plus is a big plus, and for $15, I do think it's absolutely warranted. Especially if even though the original one's free on Steam, and they do offer the plus version on Steam as well. It's if you haven't played Doki Doki Literature Club before, it's well, even if you have played it before, I do think it's worth the $15 charge to really experience it again and look at that new content because it's just all the things that they spruced up and just made it look really really nice, just to bring it into the more I don't want to call it the modern era because the game itself isn't that old, um, but it definitely looked more or had that vibe of like an RPG Maker type thing. The first one versus now where it does feel a lot more polished. It feels like a proper studio is behind it. and it feels like and it was a publisher like was heavily supportive of what they could do in order to bring this to consoles and for everyone to enjoy. So yeah, but yeah, it's an awesome after that, I've been playing a little bit of Tinykin on Xbox, which I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but
I don't think so.
Tinykin is awesome. It's on Game Pass. I also did get a review code on Switch, and it runs fine on Switch. But and it looks good on Switch too. But I ended up opting for playing it on Xbox because I really wanted those achievements, man. Sometimes some games, man, when they have like juicy achievements, I'm like, all right, we're gonna I'm gonna go ahead and play this on another platform then because I want those achievements.
Yeah.
And I did get 99% of the achievements. I missed one, and it's very difficult to get because those levels are big. So Tinykin basically it's Pikmin. I'm just gonna be outright. It's Pikmin. But it's emphasizes a lot more of the platforming aspect of it, and the art style is so good, so good. It's super charming. The Tinykin themselves, which are essentially like the Pikmin, they're super cute. They come in a variety of forms. There's one that you just throw like Pikmin to carry objects. There's another one that's red that helps explode things. There's a blue one that transfers electricity and that can help with certain puzzles and things like that. Or if you need to turn something on to like, let's just say like a big electric, automatic door. Oh, we can't get to this door. All right, let's give it some electricity. Open the door, and now you can get into this part of the level to get some sort of secret. Because there's a lot of secrets and collectibles in each one of those levels, and I fell in love with it, man. I mean, these levels are designed almost in like a Toy Story-esque fashion because you're very tiny, and everything is just so big and gargantuan. Everyday place is like a kitchen, right? That's one level. A bedroom is another level. A bathroom is another level, and it's these various parts of the house um, that you go through, and these tinykin, and that have essentially built civilization in these various parts of the house. So there's like I think when one of the bedroom areas was it the bedroom area? Maybe it was just the living room area. It just made it seem like like they had their own circus going on. It just made me laugh.
I mean,
They
it's
have an
very much
economy.
like Pikmin, except instead of a garden, you're in a house. It sounds like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically, and but yeah, it emphasizes the platforming nature very, very much. I think Pikmin was much more puzzle and like simulation based, but this one was very like puzzle platformer heavy, and yeah, it was just so good. And the humor, the dialogue's really, really well written, and the game just exudes so much charm. And I can't recommend it enough, man. Like if you love platformers, like this is the platformer to play right now, I think. And it's one of my favorite games I think to come out this year, honestly. So I think when we end up having our top 10 at the end of the year, I you don't be surprised if you see Tinykin on it. Like it's great, man. It's awesome. And
What's
like 5-6 hours tops it took to beat the game because I think each level is about well, honestly, you can run through that game if you just want to do the bare minimum. But I wanted to squeeze out every level I possibly could before I went on to the next.
Well,
And
what's funny is back on the 29th of August, they blind sent me a Steam code. And I get these a lot from just random publishers, and I usually don't pay
yeah,
any attention to them. I didn't pay any attention to it. I just like, oh, this is just some crazy game. Yeah, a lot of times
well, yeah,
yeah, a lot of times these publishers will just PR people will just randomly say, "Hey, here's a free Steam code for this game," and it's just a garbage game. And most of the time when they blind send me games like that, I don't pay attention to them unless it's something I recognize.
yeah,
I didn't
right.
recognize this game, and it's like as soon as I pulled it up on Steam, what he said, I was like, "Wait a minute." Yeah, sure enough, I got a free Steam code for this game.
Yeah,
It's like, so well, let me redeem this.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely redeem it. I mean, that would be a great Steam Deck game. Oh my
Yeah.
god,
Well, we're
that'd be a
going to
fantastic
find
Steam Deck.
out because I'm going to
Yeah,
put it on the Steam Deck
okay,
and see.
do it,
I'll be the
do it.
judge of that, Dennis. We'll find
By
out.
golly.
I can't say if it's optimized. I don't know, but I don't know. Look, Tinykin is demanding, and you can tell by looking at it. I mean, we're talking that's Hellblade right there.
Yeah.
That's Hellblade levels of tech being pushed to, uh, but no, that Tinykin is it's so good, man. And
Huh.
whether you're playing it on PC or Game Pass, it's just so good. Like, please do yourself a favor and play it if you love platformers, because like, man, it was so good. It's just so good. I loved it. Like, I was honestly upset when I beat it. Like, that's how good it was. When you beat it and like, because it doesn't really have much replay value. Because again, I
Gotcha,
got all the
yeah.
achievements. Well, just about. I got 99%. That last one's hard, man. You gotta get like every single tinykin ever in any level. And I thought I did that because I'm very thorough when I explore levels. And like I went back to some of the levels because I was like, okay, because I looked up how much is in each level, and 3 out of the 6 levels, I 100%ed, but the 3 levels I was missing some tinykin for. I mean, I spent 45 minutes on each, just kind of like looking around. I was like, I've been through every square foot of this place. I could be a real estate agent and I would sell you on this thing so hard. I went through every square foot of this place. I have not found any extra tinykin. I don't know where they are. I don't know where they are. So I was just like, you know what? It's pretty much 100% to me. So
I did it.
I'll take it. Yeah, I did it. So I got every other achievement. I'm happy. So, but yeah, oh man, what a fantastic game. And I'll tell you what, Tiny Build, I believe, published
They
that
did.
one. And Tiny Build has quickly become, as of late, I'm loving the stuff that they're publishing, man, because they publish games that have been just they've had so much charm to them and so much enjoyment, and they really just get to the point of just having fun. Like this was pure joy I had the whole time playing Tinykin, and it's just fantastic, man. It was really great. So, uh, but uh, but yeah, and then I mean, we talked about it earlier, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But Disney Dreamlight Valley, obviously been playing a lot of that, bouncing around from Xbox, Switch, and PC. Um, you know, great game, but unfortunately the Switch version is a mess. Even with the new patch, I did try playing it on the Switch, and it once again crashed on me. So I was like, you know what, I'm moving on. So, but but in addition to that, yeah, it's a shame. Um, but uh, but yeah, also not so much a game as it is an expansion. I started playing or replaying Dead by Daylight again. I jumped back into that. I haven't played that in the better part of like a year. That used to be like not necessarily a go-to game, but that was definitely a game that like I played a couple times a week, couple matches here and there, just to kill some time. And but I haven't played in the better part of a year, and I jumped back in because we recently got a code for the new Resident Evil expansion, the second one that they've done, called Project W. And we do have a review out now for it, so go to thegamerslodge.com. It's up now. Yeah, no, I mean, it's enjoyable. The first expansion that they did, they introduced Nemesis, Leon Kennedy, and Jill Valentine, and that was around the time Resident Evil 3 remake came out. So I would imagine it was also a form of promotion, for that game. Now this time around, we have Albert Wesker, hence the W in Project W, and Rebecca Chambers. Thank God, because I don't think she gets enough credit. I love Rebecca Chambers. A lot of people give her crap, but I think she's great. And Ada Wong, of course, the classic Ada Wong. So, but yeah, and then they're brought in. The first expansion gave a map that was essentially the Raccoon City Police Department. This Project W does not give one, so it is somewhat lacking in that department, and it's the same price as the original one. So. It's a little unfortunate. However, you do get some bonus skins. However, with this that they don't talk about, that I noticed that they didn't mention in the details, or maybe they did. I don't know, but I didn't see it, which I thought was weird. But you do get some bonus skins. So every chapter that you buy, at least for I know this is the case with some of them, not all of them, but in the case with the first Resident Evil and now this expansion for Resident Evil, they do have a bunch of skins that you can unlock. Now, unfortunately, those skins, even though you already paid for the expansion, you do have to use a premium currency to unlock those extra skins.
Of course you
And
do.
so, of course, yeah. So a $12 expansion can easily turn into a $25 expansion.
You
So,
have to buy the expansion to buy the skins.
yeah.
That's
Basically,
stupid. Like
it's a paywall for a paywall. Yeah.
if you have like a thing where like you don't have to buy the expansion, but you want that cool skin, you can buy it. That makes sense. If you buy the expansion, it should just have the skins come with it. Like even if you have to unlock it
Yeah.
somehow, but to pay for it again is like, come on.
Yeah, it's a little obnoxious, but that's just how they've always done it, as far as I know. So
Doesn't
because I
make it
remember,
cool, just makes it obnoxious.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it makes it obnoxious because I remember when they did this, because the last expansion, big expansion that I played was the Silent Hill one, because I love Silent Hill, so I had to get that. So, um, and that was about a year and a half ago, something like that, was when the Silent Hill chapter came out on Dead by Daylight. So, but right away they give you a new map, obviously Silent Hill, and they give you Pyramid Head as the killer, and they give you Cheryl Mason as the survivor. But Cheryl Mason has a couple of skins. You can turn her into Sybil, who's the cop from Silent Hill 1. You can turn her into Alessa Gillespie, who's, her evil small form, that basically essentially is the reason behind Silent Hill even existing. Um, and then there's also a couple of other ones that are eluding me at the moment. Um, but but yeah, all those you gotta pay for. Oh, Lisa's another one. Lisa the nurse. And not the Silent Hill nurse, but the one with the human one with the red cardigan.
Mhm.
And but yeah, you gotta pay for all those, man. I was like, you already pay for this, But what are you doing, man? It's ridiculous. But it's like Nathaniel said, like,
Apparently
if you
making
just
bank,
gotta,
because if they haven't
Apparently.
stopped by now, they've
yeah, I
someone's
guess,
buying it.
Yeah.
yeah, because I don't know. I just find it annoying because it's one thing also if you can get premium currency in game, and maybe you can, but I've never found a way. I have blood point, what are they called? Blood points, blood shards, whatever. To hell and back, my God. But of course, even though that's a form of currency, that it doesn't matter. It's useless, because you're not paying real money for it. So who cares? Um, so. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah. Anyways, that's that. We're getting on a tangent here, but Project W, all things considered, is really really cool though. Like Albert Wesker is an awesome killer. Um, he has this cool little leap thing that he does, and they really made him powerful. Like we're talking like Resident Evil 5 Albert Wesker. I think is a great way to describe it, where he's just, I mean, my God, he's got the super speed, he's got the super strength. I mean, he's got the T virus under control, right? So he's bringing out those tentacle whips and like just smacking you from like 80 feet away, and he's got the knives, and it's insane, and he can infect the survivors as well, which just makes things like super time like really gets to you, and that virus, will eventually kill you. Like, never mind being put on the little hooks that are surrounded, that are scattered throughout the map. Like, the moment you get touched, you get hit with the T virus, and then then you're on a timer basically. So it's tough. It's tough for a survivor. But Rebecca Chambers and Ada Wong, they're awesome. They look super faithful. Their assets are really great, like really well designed, and the perks that they have are pretty much tuned to how you would expect them to be in the Resident Evil universe as well. So Rebecca Chambers, her history is like she's always been a medic, right? So she's got a lot of perks that help with like immediate, attention in terms of, fast healing and being a positive source of optimism basically, and just making sure the team doesn't get damaged too much, and she has all those passives as well. It's really good. Ada Wong on the other hand, of course, she's sort of a vigilante, um, double agent type of Catwoman-esque sort of personality. So so she's very stealthy, so she's going to be very quiet despite being hurt. Those are her perks. She can like lay traps down that would alert the rest of your team of where the killer is, and things like that. So but yeah, very 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 Ada Wong. So they did a very good job at implementing these characters and giving them these sorts of passives and abilities that you would expect them to have. That's part of their character, but in the Dead by Daylight universe. My only critique really, and you can read the rest on the gamerslounge.com, but my only critique really is that you know with Dead by Daylight now has been around since 2016, right? And we've seen it grow, we've seen it grow, we've seen it grow. But the biggest problem I have with it is like I can't believe 6 years later there's still just the same mode over and over again and no map select. Like it's one thing. Like I understand it's supposed to be randomized. You never know what you're gonna get, and they're all procedurally generated. But at the same time, it's like, look, when you in the again, there's no map in Project W, but there is in the first Resident Evil chapter. I just want to go into the RCPD, man. You know what I mean? Like, just why can't you have, if you're not gonna have a map selection, I would much prefer you have a map prioritizer. I've seen some games do that where it's just like, all right, select a map that you would like to go to, and we'll try to queue you up in whatever will most successfully get you into that map type, or that game type, Um, yeah, just be flexible with it, man. Like, I mean, I got to go through games and games and games and games and games, just to find the map that I want. That's ridiculous, So like, and I'm not the type to quit out. The moment I get into a game, I'm like, all right, I'll play this one. I'm not gonna grief people. I'm not gonna cause issues for every lobby and just, and then put even my own account at risk for quitting every game.
Right.
you know, that because every live service game has sort of a queue system like that where they have those little fail safes in place where it's like, look, you've quit the last 5 games in a row. The moment you've jumped in, you're essentially a griefer at this point. We're gonna suspend you for the next 10 minutes, or an hour or a day or however long. So, but it's like, come on, man. I can't believe we're still doing this. Like that just take me to this damn map. It's ridiculous. Um, especially when you paid for it. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like
yeah.
you're excited
Yeah.
for it, man. Jesus.
What if you
Anyways,
pay for it, play for a while, and then get bored and never get to that map and just be like, well, that sucked.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, that could happen.
right. And so yeah, it gets super annoying, and yeah, it's unfortunate, but all things considered, I do wish Dead by Daylight would do something to change it up a little bit because it does get stale very quickly doing the same thing over and over again, especially when still all this time later the killers are just still so overpowered. So I mean the game is very much skewed in their favor. And I mean, I get it. You want that tension, right? You want that tension. The killer is supposed that's what makes them the killer. Otherwise, if you were strong, you'd be the killer. You know what I mean? So the
Right.
the survivor, is meant to be, a little on the weaker side of things. But I just feel like some games are I mean, my God, it's there's not enough done. Honestly, what they need to balance out is some of the timing, and some of the success rates. And what I mean by that is when a killer picks you up, for example, and if you've played Dead by Daylight, you know this. There's a little wiggle feature, and you can just tilt the controller back and forth to kind of, you know, get out of the grasp of the killer, and then they'll drop you, and they'll kind of like be stunned for like a second, then you can take a couple seconds to run away. Um, but first of all, with how many of those hooks there are throughout the map and how close they are to each other, it's pointless. I don't even bother wiggling, dude. It's pointless because by the time I get even a fourth of the way up through that wiggle meter, I'm already hooked. It doesn't matter. And that's how it's been for the last couple of years. So nothing's changed in that regard. The speed doesn't go up high enough. And even if you want to keep that speed the same, fine, but at least make less hooks in each map because it's a little ridiculous. Because the success rate of that is little to none. And same thing with when you're on a hook, for example. Not every team is the most supportive, right? A lot of them focused heavily on the generators, and I don't blame them honestly, because you need 5 generators to fix in order to open up the main gate and then leave and win the game. So I get that, but there's only 4 of us, and the less of us that are out on the field, the less generators that are going to be, um, uh, you know, taken care of. So there's a feature in which, and they've had this since the beginning also, in which you can try to escape on your own, right? Now the success rate of that, if I'm not mistaken, is I think I read somewhere it was like 3%, and I'm like, why even have, why even have it? Why,
Wow.
because I've been playing since 2016, not consistently, but I've been playing since the beginning, and never once have I successfully got off of that hook. And I've tried too, but usually again I just sit there and I wait until somebody passes by and is bored enough, and eventually is like, yeah, I'm here, I'll take you off. you know, yeah, and then the healing. Let's just say they do take you off. the healing, oh my lord, it takes too long. You sit there while they bandage you up, and it's like you have to, it's a solid minute and a half, man. And that killer can it's that killer makes the rounds, if it's a decent killer. So you know, you don't have time to do it all the way. Then you get hit again, and then there you are back on the ground, and you're crawling. And then when you're crawling, you have a recover button. That once again takes too long. It's you hit the recover button. That meter, it's a big meter like that, and then maybe after 10 seconds, you've made it about that far. Are you kidding me? Like there's no hope for the survivors. That's it. That game has a big balancing issue. Um, I love Dead by Daylight, and I think it has so much potential that is unfortunately ruined by the core mechanics of that game. That can easily be tweaked, quite frankly. But it's been the same since 2016, and it has not changed. And yeah, it's unfortunate. So that's why I can only play so much, because after a couple of matches, I'm like, I've had enough of this. Because win or lose, even if I won every match, I just get tired because I'm just like, man, this is too. It's stressful, but it's not a good stressful. Like it's not a fun stressful. It's not like like you're playing competitive Overwatch or something where it's just like, okay, especially when you have a team. Never mind randoms. Let's just say you have an actual team and you're playing with each other, and it's just like, all right, you know. Even if you lose, that was awesome. That coordination was awesome. You were a great tank. Like we pushed the payload. We were right there, but they just held it down like way too good, and unfortunately got the best of it. So it still feels rewarding to some degree. Dead by Daylight never feels rewarding, man. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. So after a while, like even though I'm having fun, I think a lot of the allure of Dead by Daylight is the crossover material, right? But ultimately, it's the same game at the end of the day, and it's there's a lot of potential there that is just untapped, and sometimes I just wonder, you know, why really, because I've seen interviews with those guys too, and like they they very much love that game, and they're very much in tune with the community, and they talk to the community, but it's like I don't know, just I don't know. Why do you hate Survivor so much? Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, but that's
It's
my
not
critique on
called
that.
Survive by Daylight. Come
Yeah,
on.
that's true. That's true. That's very true. But yeah, overall, it's a solid expansion. But again, I think it's really unfortunate though that they continue to have these sorts of practices that are very, as far as I'm concerned, anti-consumer. So, but yeah, if you want to read the whole full review in detail, go to thegamerslounge.com and check it out there. Now the next two games have been demos, and I'll talk to them relatively quickly. The first one I actually played a little bit of last night. Well, I beat the demo last night. It wasn't a long demo, maybe 45 minutes. It's called uh, Ast. I, I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know if it's like Asterigos or Asterigos or like
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I don't know.
yeah.
Asparagus, I guess. I don't know.
Asparagus.
Something like that. Yeah,
Asparagus.
asparagus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It sounds very Greek, whatever it is. But man, this game is awesome. I've been getting press releases about this game now for probably the better part of probably since the beginning of the year, if not late
Wow.
2021. And this game has been on my radar ever since, man. It is, first of all, the visuals are fantastic. I mean, I love the art direction of this. It has an Immortals Phoenix Rising
Yeah, it
vibe
does kind
to
of
it,
look like that.
Yeah, that's what I
right?
was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, and but it's definitely more. But the gameplay is not like it at all. It's definitely a Souls-like, but um, but not, but more forgiving, basically. I was able to get through the demo no problem. As someone who isn't really a fan of those types of games or isn't particularly good at those types of games, um,
So what you're
I
saying is
actually
I'll play
really.
it and they'll think it's too easy.
Yes, I actually yes. What's funny is after I got done beating it, you're the first person I thought of. Nathaniel. I was like, yeah, I know he's gonna play this and be like, this is for kids.
I mean, it does
That's
look fun,
probably
but yeah, it's probably just more of
yeah.
like we'll make it more action gamey and have some of the Souls-like kind of structure, but not the difficulty. That seems like what
Yeah,
they're going
yeah.
for.
Well, one of the biggest differences you'll notice right away is it doesn't take 10 seconds to swing your weapon. So I thought that was really nice.
That's not a
Um,
Souls-like thing.
Dude, every Souls game I played, I swear
There's
it's
no
taken me
Souls
like
game that takes 10 seconds, Dennis. I'm being very literal.
maybe not literally, but
And it also depends on what weapon you got. Some weapons are fast, some are giant hammers that are heavy, and they take longer to go with your puny little arms. Just
I
saying.
guess. But either way, it just feels too slow. You know, I'm a hack and slash guy, so I need that.
Like
I need that
Bloodborne, that's a hack and
rapid.
slash Souls-like one. That's very specifically meant to be fast combat.
See, I would say Sekiro personally because Sekiro I love.
Sekiro
Sekiro is the only
also is
one.
faster combat
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
because Sekiro. Oh man, Sekiro was so good. Sekiro I actually like really enjoyed. Like
Yeah, Sekiro is probably a little bit more of like faster, like actiony combat kind of a game, and then
yeah.
Bloodborne's kind of had the midpoint between that, and then the other side is Dark Souls, which is a lot more methodical. That side of
Yeah.
it. So there's a spectrum of Souls likes out there.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Souls. Those aren't even Souls likes technically because they're all the FromSoft games.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah. But Asterigos, or Asterigos, whatever you want to call it, asparagus. We'll just call it asparagus.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man. I love it. And again, for not being for not being that much of a fan of these types of games, not because I don't think the games are good. It's just it's the combat I can't click with. This was actually very good, and the level design. From the short bit that you experience, it opens up much more if you look at the press releases and the trailers and stuff like that, and it does become essentially like Immortals Phoenix Rising. But it's a beautiful map. I mean, the use of the colors, it's not dark and broody like a lot of these games are. The use of the colors are wonderful. I like where the story's going so far. The main character has a lot of appeal, and may I say the menus and the user interface and everything is very intuitive and very easy to read, and I appreciate that. It's very much accessible. You don't have a skill tree that goes 10 years, down, this huge scroll page or whatever.
So it's not Assassin's Creed Valhalla then.
No,
No.
God, no.
It's not like
No,
a star
Jesus.
map that you have to
No.
pan and scroll through.
My Lord, and like an actual star map, like it even makes No Man's Sky sweat. It's ridiculous. Like, my God. But yeah, no, nothing like that. It gets to the point because I think the game is ultimately just trying to make you have fun. It wants to provide a challenge, but it's like, look, just get in there, man, and just experience that world, which I appreciate that because I've said time and time again, when it comes to big open worlds like these, man, I'm an explorer. I want to see the beautiful environment that you made. This is a stunning world that I want to explore and experience. I want to get lost in it, man. It's the ultimate form of escapism, and just let me appreciate it, and I think we're gonna get that with this. At least I hope. But
Tiny build.
I mean, we'll find out
yeah,
in a
tiny
little
build,
less
that's
than
right,
a
yeah.
month because I think it's early mid-October, something like
October
that.
11th.
Yeah.
I actually have the Steam page pulled up. I've not heard of
There you
this
go.
one, so
Yeah,
it recommends it to me. It says this game is relevant to you because it's similar in games like Jedi Fallen Order and Witcher 3. I'm like, okay.
I mean,
Oh, nice. Okay.
they say that,
Check
but
it
then
out.
sometimes it's like, I know this game and I know the two games you're saying that it's like, and I'm like, what are you smoking, Steam?
Yeah. Now this one, just
Yeah.
This game's not like either of those.
this one kind of seems like it might be more like Fallen Order, as far
Oh,
as
for
like
sure. I mean,
gameplay and stuff. Yeah.
for sure. I started getting feelings of that right away, actually. I thought Jedi Fallen Order was fantastic. So, yeah, and I actually got a lot of vibes with that in terms of combat, actually. So it definitely more in line with that. Witcher, maybe the fantasy setting, but otherwise,
I mean, it could even just be open world is a
Yeah.
tag on it,
Yeah.
and it's popular, so therefore we will say it is like this game. Like,
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Steve makes some pretty dubious connections sometimes. You're just like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
But yeah, no, I mean, it took me about 45 minutes to beat, and man, I am so excited for this game, especially with it being, more on the indie side. It's it's probably one of the It's a game that absolutely no one's talking about, and yet I'm absolutely excited for it. You know,
Yeah, I've
it's
never heard of this. I just searched my
I'd
emails
seen
and
something about it before and forgot about it until now. So I was like, oh yeah, I forgot
yeah,
that's coming out
yeah, it's
soon.
on your wish list. It says.
I just put it on my wish list.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why.
Well, I was gonna say
yeah.
Steam just told me it was on your wish list, so
Yeah,
I put it
Yeah.
on mine too. So I wonder
I
if this
literally
is.
just added it because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to put that the last time I saw
I
this
see
game.
it's going to be on Series X and PS5 and
yeah.
and all that. I
I
wonder
would,
if it'll be on
yeah.
Game Pass. It would be interesting to see.
I'm not sure.
I'd still probably play it on Steam just because of Steam Deck, but.
Yeah. Yeah, I played the demo on PC, and but yeah, I would very much love a review copy of this game. So I'm gonna try to reach out and get one, or even if you could reach out, John, that'd be great.
See,
But
I did the search, but I couldn't find it. But it's strange. I get other tiny build. Well, obviously they just send me blind codes,
yeah,
so you would think that.
yeah.
Hey, you
Well,
want
maybe you'll
this?
get
You
a
want
blind
this one?
code
How about this one?
for Asterios. So
Well, I may, and it may come the day it comes out, but it's kind of weird. But
Asparagus, Dennis. It's
yeah, because
asparagus.
asparagus. That's right. But I'll be happy with either Xbox or PC. I mean, that game, it ran like a charm on my computer. So you know, it's yeah, I'm excited for this, man. It's sometimes art directions just grab you a certain way. Like, even though I'm sure, you know, the game, I have no doubt there are other games that I've played that are substantially better than this. I have no doubt. But it's the art direction again, and the world. It's the world building that's really drawn me in more than anything. And I want to jump into that world and just experience everything. And it just
Yeah.
looks like
I
such
mean,
a
that's part of
beautiful
what's
experience.
attractive about Steel Rising for me too, because it's a very
Yeah,
unique kind
see,
of
yeah.
aesthetic to it that's fun.
yeah, because like Steel Rising is very. When you were mentioning that, I was looking it up actually because I didn't realize that was made by Spiders because I thought they did a fantastic job of Greedfall. I love Greedfall. So like with Steel Rising, you know, when I was looking that up, I immediately added that to my wish list because I was like, you know, even though this is more on the Souls side of things, like you were saying, it's that world, man. I love the idea of these robots, and again, I trust Spiders to make a good game, and you know, from what you've said, they've
Yeah, at
done a
least
good job
now,
so
because
far.
it's like some of their older games weren't quite as good, but they've kept kind of improving as they've gone on.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
you know,
Uh,
you keep the bar in a good place for them for the size of studio they are relative to what they can achieve, and they
yeah,
achieve
yeah,
pretty well above that bar.
yeah.
But they're still not like, hey, hundreds and hundreds of people across the globe because we're Ubisoft or EA or whatever. They're not that. They're definitely a smaller studio. I forget how big Spiders is now. They're bigger than they were, a decade ago for sure, but they're still
I
not
feel like
a
last I checked, they were like
giant.
30 something, but I think I'm confusing them with Asobo, the guys that make the Plague Tale, because they're also French. So,
Oh man,
so I
that's
think
also
I'm
coming next month. There's some fun stuff coming in October.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
there
Oh
it
yeah.
is.
Next month's gonna be crazy. But yeah, no, I'm super stoked for this. But lastly, another demo. The Nintendo Direct, which we'll talk about later, was the other day, and Harvestella, a game I've been looking forward to for quite some time now, released a prologue demo that same day, and I played it. And man, I am excited for Harvestella. Let me tell you, I want an art book of that game really bad. The art is fantastic, and yeah, it's just a really fun, simple RPG that doesn't try to overdo anything. It has some technical issues on Switch, but honestly, for the most part, I had a great time with it. Um, you know, I tweeted a little bit about some of my worries for the Switch version, but otherwise, Harvestella as a game, never mind visuals and technical aspect of it, but as a game is great. I love the balancing between the farming and the RPG elements. It's not like Rune Factory or Rune Factory more often than not, especially Rune Factory 5, unfortunately, with which unfortunately fell a little below expectations, as Square Enix likes to put it. They it was just it just felt too jumbled. I think because the pacing was all over the place and the timing was just I don't like games with really fast in-game timers. Like I don't like that. But it actually works in Harvestella. It's reasonable. I never feel like I'm being rushed. I mean, I still look at the clock a lot, and I'm just like, all right, how much time I got before I pass out? So I want to get home before midnight. But
So it's like a whole
but
like a daytimer kind of like Stardew
yeah,
Valley or anything that's like a day lasts 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, something like that is what it
yeah,
uses.
more or
Okay.
less. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's not Animal Crossing that does real time.
Yeah.
And that's important because that's the one thing I absolutely hate about Animal Crossing that will prevent me from ever like really, really deep diving into it because I don't know. It annoys me.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to wait. I don't want to have to go out and change time to do stuff. I just want to play it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, just want to play it. Yeah. But yeah, no, Harvestella, yeah, it's got an in-game timer like that, but it balances it out pretty good. I never feel too rushed. I mean, sometimes I do look at the clock and I go, okay, well, I want to do this, and this really quick, but nothing is ever that time consuming. So even though, like, let's just say I don't start farming until like 5 p.m., but because when you pass out, you wake up later, for example. Now, when you go to bed on time, you wake up at like usually 7 a.m. If you go to bed really late, you'll probably wake up by like 10 a.m. But if you pass out, usually you'll wake up by like noon or 1 p.m. the following day.
Then your whole day's
Um,
ruined.
yeah, your whole day's ruined. You missed breakfast, which is the most important meal of the day, and yeah, it's terrible. But uh, but yeah, it's I would plant like 20 seeds in like 30 seconds, and then I would plant seeds in about 30 seconds. I would get them all watered in about 10 seconds, and then if I needed to, till some soil, I would do that in about 5 seconds. It doesn't, it's not time consuming at all. It definitely wants you to uh, you know, not feel too stressed, and instead it puts the stress on the RPG portions of it, which is fine by me because I mean, if something is predictably a higher level than you, but it's in your way and you got to fight it, then of course there's going
Right.
to be some stress there of like, am I going to make it out of this alive? But that's fine because that you're going up against an enemy like you would any other game, and it's a typical boss fight. If it's a boss fight, whatever. Um, but yeah, no, I mean I'm loving it, man. I think it's really really great so far, and yeah, no, I mean I'm super stoked for it. I can't wait for it to come out. I'm excited to play it because I'm gonna be spending a lot of time with that game for sure. Because when the prologue finished, it just finished. It wouldn't even let me continue on from where I was or just
Gotcha.
kind of mess around in the world. It just like finished. But your save data does cross over to the full game, so at least now that I have, the gist of it down, I can just pick up right where I left off when the full game comes out and just.
Well, I'll let Nikki know then, because she thought that game. She watched the. I didn't get to watch the direct for a couple days later, and
Yeah.
she saw that. She goes, "Well, that looks cute." So I
Yeah,
didn't.
Harvestella is great. It definitely feels like they took not even Final Fantasy. I want to say they took Bravely Default and were basically like, now let's add farming.
Well, look
Is
at this,
basically
and
what
they
they
it's
did.
available on
Yeah,
Steam too. Okay.
Yep,
that's right.
it
Yeah,
is.
so
It
it's
is.
gonna be yes, so it's gonna be coming out to Steam as well. So that which will make a great Steam Deck game
Let me
and
just
look really
add
really
that
pretty.
to my wish list.
Yeah,
I'll,
so
I'll
I
do.
will say that's the one thing that I was unfortunately a little disappointed with on Switch was at least in handheld mode. On TV it actually looks not bad, but in handheld mode things get very blurry. It's definitely a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 situation where the resolution
Gotcha.
drops by a lot, and there's no next to no shading. The lighting's really flat. I mean, if you see what the game can actually look like, which I'm sure they have screenshots for it on Steam, it's actually like the game is really really pretty. Like the
Yeah,
environments
it
are really
looks really
pretty.
good.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the Switch version, it's a little. It takes this beautiful world, and I said this in my tweet. It was like my biggest criticism of like it takes this beautiful world and unfortunately makes it look dull and flat because of they had to really degrade those textures a lot. And again, without proper shading and lighting, I mean, a game can look 10 times better. Lighting and shading will change the entire look of a game more than anything else.
Yeah.
I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So, so when you take a lot of that away, unfortunately, you start to lose uh, that vibrancy and I think the core uh, um, vision for what the art direction is supposed to be. Uh, but uh, but overall, I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm still probably going to pick it up on Switch. Um, you know, despite that, because it runs well and the game is great. So it'll be a solid Switch game. So I'm not too worried about it. If I had a Steam Deck, then yeah, probably I'll probably get it on Steam.
Yeah,
Uh, but,
I'm really just leaning more just the Switch has just become, oh, it's a Nintendo game. Okay, I'll buy it on there, and everything else. If I can buy it on Steam, I'll buy it on Steam because I'd rather play it on the Steam Deck.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I can see that game being a great. Well, honestly, that game's gonna be great regardless, because that game's gonna be a great Switch game, but it can be a great like chill out my laptop type of game. But it would also make a fantastic Steam Deck game also. So like, yeah, I think that game's really gonna click with a lot of people. And thank God there's a demo out, because I know there was a lot of people that were a little iffy at first.
Well, especially when it's a $60 game, it's like,
So.
And there was a lot of farming games there was at least 2 or 3 other farming games on that Nintendo Direct. It
was quite a bit. It was quite a bit. I mean, it was pretty much a Square Enix Direct too, because I feel like 90% of the games they showed was Square Enix. But we'll get to that once we get to the news. But yeah, overall, I mean, I'm so excited, man. I'm just glad this lived up to my expectations, because I was a little worried at first also. But yeah, Harvestella, man, I'm excited. The prologue demo's out now. Go pick it up. And if you're listening to this and try it out. I mean, your save data transfers to the full game, so you may as well get a head start on it.
Yeah, really.
So for free.
Wish they had a demo of it on Steam, but they don't. Oh well.
Oh, they don't.
No,
Interesting.
It's only. I'd say it's probably a Nintendo thing.
Probably. Yeah. Because I think it's console exclusive to Switch, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, that's everything.
Okay, I was going to say, I thought that was it before I go on here. So, okay, let's get in the news, because we got a lot to go, and we're going to try to run through it real quick, so we're not sitting here for another hour.
Or will we?
Or will we? Yeah.
Keep listening to find out.
Well, on the official PlayStation podcast the other day, the senior vice president of the platform said that PSVR 2 would not be backwards compatible with PSVR 1 games. And
doesn't surprise me.
I swear, now I may be just making this up, but I swear that they said something back in the beginning when they first announced it, PSVR, that they were planning on having backwards compatibility with PSVR 1.
And you know what? That news came to me as a surprise, because I thought the same exact thing.
I may just be making it up, but I swear I thought
I don't remember hearing anything like that, but it doesn't surprise me because of the hardware differences. It's probably going to be quite a bit, just like the technology for what it runs. Like, it's not this, but like the VR OS for 2 versus 1 is so different that they can't just natively run it. They'll probably re-release a lot of, like, at least the more popular ones as like the PSVR 2 version. But yeah, as far as just like running the disc, it just might not work.
I don't know. That aggravates me to no ends, because
it'd be great if it would, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me just based on how like VR in other places works. That sure. Plus, it's Sony too, so it's not like they're gonna really go out of their way to do that. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean it sucks, because I have a very large VR library, not digital but physical. But it's like a game. Beat Saber is going to come to PlayStation VR too. And people bought that on PlayStation VR. I mean, and maybe a lot of companies will add some kind of upgrade thing. We could look on your account and see you got that. I don't know, but I know a lot of the games that I like on PlayStation VR will probably never be ported over to PlayStation VR 2. And if they are, I probably wouldn't buy them again, just because it's like, and that's a shame, because playing PlayStation 1 or PlayStation VR on a PlayStation 5, those games just naturally run better. It would have been really nice to be able to not have to have 2 VR headsets, and I want to play this VR game, I'm going to have to unplug this VR headset, plug this VR headset in, and then and it's because it's not an easy thing just to go back. It's not like it's one cable, especially with the original. It's like 2 or 3, so running into a box, and it's a lot of work to have to hook and unhook. And
on the good side, though, all the previews for PSVR 2 that came out this past like week or two, whenever that was, they've all been pretty positive on it, especially for the Horizon game. Apparently is really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. So
I still just want to know how much is it going to be, because with all of them pushing the tech a little bit more this time than they did with PSVR 1, I'm expecting it to be not cheap.
Yeah, I'm not either, which means it probably will not be a day one purchase for me, because it's probably going to be more than I'm willing to spend on it right now. I don't know. Could be surprised, but then again, it's Sony, so I'm not surprised by anything. I mean, they're the ones that raised the PlayStation 5 in all these other countries except America. And I don't know if anybody else watched the video, but literally the 1200 version of the PlayStation 5 came out in Australia right after they price hiked it, and it's all redesigned on the inside of it. The motherboard's smaller, the cooling smaller, it takes up less space in it, it weighs less, it's not as heavy, it's still in the same shell, but even the inside of the shell with the vents are all changed around on the inside. It's it's like they completely redid the inside of it, but left the shell, the original PlayStation 5 shell, and then said, oh, that's $50 more. It's like, all right, well, that was sucks for everybody else in the world. But it's an interesting video to look up, how big of a difference the guts of the system are. Let's see. There was a lot of things. There was a whole nother game thing that I didn't even put in the show notes. It was the Disney game thing. There wasn't a whole lot of.
No. You say it was a whole other game thing. What it really was like maybe 33% of a game thing, and
Maybe.
a lot of just crappy trailers and like, hey, here's an untitled game we're working on that you might be interested, all you gamers who are watching it. Here's like 3 or 4 mobile games you probably don't care about for the people who are actually watching this stream. I was sad that I watched that one, so we don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, there wasn't enough. There wasn't anything that I thought was surprising in that one to talk about.
Well, like they had a leak of the one thing that was the big thing, the Captain America Black Panther game leaked before it, and all they pretty much did was have like a teaser trailer that confirmed it that it's coming. But cool, like that's still a long way off.
Yeah, a long way off. But State of Play happened. They showed quite a few games. They actually showed some trailers for VR games. They're doing the Tales from Galaxy's Edge enhanced edition. I don't know what's enhanced about it, probably other than graphics. I have that game on the Quest 2, and it looks and runs great. So, I mean, other than graphics, I can't imagine what difference it would be. That would be a game I would buy if they make it physical. And I had a PSVR just because, I don't have it physically on the Quest. Because you don't have physical games on the Quest. But,
that's because it's a Quest. You don't plug things into it.
Yeah, you don't plug things into it. So, but the thing about it is with PlayStation VR 2, I hope it's not like VR 1, and a lot of those games for very limited release as far as physical went, they were very small batches. So by the time I got into it, it was kind of hard to find those games on disc. Because I was kind of late to the game with PlayStation VR, so it may even be those
to pay attention to it this time, so that, like maybe get it before you get a headset, just in case if you see it on sale. Right?
And that's what I was going to say. I'll probably end up having 3 or 4 PlayStation VR games before I have a VR 2 headset, just because it's like, well, that game may disappear before I'm able to find it. But Like a Dragon. I know Dennis is excited about that. There was a lot of
absolutely.
Like a Dragon. Well, I think State of Play just had the one game, didn't it?
They did. They had the how you say it?
Because they had the rest. Yeah, Ishin. I don't know.
That's the only Yakuza game that I don't own because I just never imported it. I imported all the other games before they came out in America. So I guess if I would have imported it back when it was out on the PlayStation 4, it probably would have came like last year. We probably would have got it way earlier if I'd have imported it. Because that's usually the way it goes. Is I imported Yakuza 6, and then all of a sudden, like 6 months after I got it from Japan, they were like, "Oh, it's coming out." And
was the Japanese version also PS5, or is this the first PS5 version?
This is the PS5 version that's updated with Unreal and stuff like that. Yeah, but it was out on PS4, but it was only in Japan. Those games are great. I have the PS3 one that was released. I can't remember the name of it. That's all the Yakuza characters, but set in feudal Japan. It was. I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't understand the words coming out of their mouth because there was no subtitles or anything like that. But it was fun as crap to play. So,
believe it.
Yeah. So, Couple of games that I thought were interesting. Hey, the PlayStation Stars thing was announced. They didn't say anything really about it. Hey, it's coming. Okay.
Well, it's like digital collectibles or whatever. It's like cool. Don't care.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Yeah. If it doesn't give me points to get me free games like Xbox does, I'm not interested. Pacific Drive, I thought that kind of looked kind of interesting. Got real. What's the word? Or what's the game? I'm not trying. It reminded me of something. Kind of reminded me of. Oh shoot! What's the name of the game? Not.
Hey, I could remember it if I wasn't directly trying to think of it.
It's almost like the Life is. It kind of reminded me of Life is Strange in a little way. Just the kind of.
Well, it's set in the Pacific Northwest, so
well, I
it
mean,
would
maybe
probably
that's
give you that vibe.
well. It's not just the setting, but it's kind of like the supernatural kind of vibey thing of the first one. That's kind of what it kind of reminded me of.
Yeah.
It looked interesting. I don't know if that's
It's definitely not the same kind of gameplay, but vibe wise, I could see that.
Yeah, no, but the vibe wise, it's what it seemed. I was trying to see.
It's described as a first person driving survival game, so sure.
Yeah, sure, okay.
There's tons of those out there. We know exactly what that means.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
I was trying to see if that was a exclusive or not. I'm not sure if it is or not.
I think it's PS5 and PC is what Eurogamer says, but I haven't looked at any further than that.
Yeah, PS5 and PC. Yep, that's on both. I figured it was on PC too. Yeah, it looks really interesting. I might try that one out. Was trying to think, was there anything else that really caught anybody else's?
Project Eve has a real name now called Stellar Blade.
Yeah, that looked really cool. That Rise of Ronin game looked really awesome too. I'm interested to see.
Yeah, that's Team Ninja that did that one, right? Yeah, that's the Team Ninja one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Team Ninja, so I'm interested to see. Yeah, that's a
man. It's all so weird that we're getting so many kind of like Japanese Ronin type, this kind of period type games. Like we have the one, and then the floodgates are opening, and now we have a whole bunch more coming.
Good. I want it all. Give it to me.
It's a PC or it's a PS5 console exclusive, so I'm going to assume that it probably is going to be on PC as well. We like those console exclusive games that might hurt other systems, but we won't go there. So I was trying to see if it's on PC too or not. I'm going to assume it probably is. I meant to look up all this stuff.
I mean, if they haven't said it now, if it's a console exclusive by a third-party studio, it will probably be on PC at some point.
Yeah, it says. Well, this doesn't say.
You just might have to wait for it, depending on what the contracts and whatnot are.
Yeah, so it doesn't.
But who knows?
It doesn't say. We know it won't be.
I'm sure we will find out at some point in time.
Yeah. We know it won't be on Xbox though. So.
Or will it eventually? Whoa.
No. They had the God of War Ragnarok story trailer. It looked pretty cool.
It's that trailer that I did not watch on purpose. I'm like, I don't need to see any more of that game until I'm playing that game.
Yeah. But you saw the controller they have though. That looked kind of
I did see the controller. It looks like a pretty controller.
Yeah.
With, some engraving not engraving, like screen printing on the touchpad or whatever.
Other than that, they really didn't talk about a whole lot. That
was pretty much the thing.
Yeah, that was like the highlights of it. It was good. The Ronin game caught me off guard. Anything when Team Ninja is in it, I always go, oh, let me pay attention to this. I like Team Ninja games. Let's see what's going on there. So, then there was the Nintendo Direct. The Fire Emblem Engage game. I thought that looked pretty cool.
As with any Nintendo Direct, it's full of a bunch of stuff that I am not interested in, and maybe one or two things that I am if I'm lucky. This time I was lucky, and there was like a couple things I'm interested in, but I already knew they existed, so cool.
Right. Just some of the highlights. Just looking through here, Pikmin 4. Looked cool. Breath of the Wild 2 is now called Tears of the Kingdom. It's not called Breath of the Wild 2. Octopath
I mean, it's
Traveler.
cool that it has a name. I don't necessarily think Tears of the Kingdom is a good name. It doesn't feel like a Zelda title so much, and it's
No, it
also just
doesn't.
kind of like somewhat generic-y sounding. I don't know.
Well, not only that, but like what kills me is like they were like apparently they had a title forever ago, and they're like, we're not ready to reveal it yet because it might, we don't want to give out spoilers. And like once that title got revealed, I was like,
What kind
what
of
is
That
that
can't be the
spoilers?
one that's spoilery.
Like,
It's like, there's a
s-
kingdom in a Zelda game?
yeah, like
What?
And people are
I
going to
guess
be
somebody's
upset
crying.
and
Like,
cry?
yeah,
What?
I mean, you know what I would call it based on the trailer, like this tiny amount of teasers, and it probably doesn't make any sense necessarily, but I would call it Breath of the Winds. That keeps the breath of the something thing so that people who may have just started with Breath of the Wild know that it's related to it. And hey, you're skydiving in it, so it kind of makes sense. Like it's maybe a little too on the nose for Nintendo, but Tears of the Kingdom is just kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
All right.
cool.
Yeah.
It's not as weird as like Wind Waker or something that you're immediately like, well, what is that? I don't know, but that sounds kind of cool. It's just kind of like, all right, it's a title, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, but I want to feel more than that for like a Zelda game.
Right.
The game still looks cool for what little they've shown of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'll pre-order it when the collector's edition comes up because there'll be a collector's edition. So
I'm just so sick and tired of like these 5-second trailers, man. Just show me something or don't. Like, just
Yeah.
at this point, just come out. I'm
I
tired.
mean, it was a
Hell, show me
longer
one more trailer.
trailer, but it's showed us some stuff that we've already kind of seen from
Yeah,
the previous teaser trailer, and a couple new things. Like, well, I guess all like kind of the like the graphical type, the drawing sketches, whatever you would call the stuff at the first half of the trailer was new, but then it was like, yep, he's skydiving. Oh, hey, here's a couple different clips of him climbing and some stuff that we hadn't seen, but still like
yeah.
not telling us anything new about the game. And I guess we'll probably get like a Zelda Direct sometime, a couple month out before it comes out in May. So at least they did put a date on it finally, which is kind of cool.
Well, once again, 2023 is going to be big for Nintendo games. I mean, you got Fire Emblem, in January. You got Pikmin in 2023. You got Zelda in May of 2023. So they're going to have some big non-Pokemon games.
I mean, we kind of thought this year would be it, and then like we still had a bunch of delays that it would just be a big game year overall, and we've had a few big ones, but it wasn't just overall. Here's a lot of things. So 2023 just seems like, yeah, it's shaping up to be a big year for video games again, but I'm sure things will also get delayed, and we'll see how it turns out when we finally get there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, Octopath Traveler 2, we talked about that. That has not come on PlayStation 5 or 4, and it doesn't look like it's going to be released on PlayStation 5 or 4. I looked that up. So they're going to get 2, but they don't have 1, which is strange. But hey, whatever. A Square Enix game that Xbox got and Sony didn't? What?
Oh no.
But yeah, so I mean, those were the big games. They more Xenoblade expansion pass stuff, Fatal Frame, which is coming out, but I think that's actually coming out to all consoles and PC, if I remember right. It's not just a Switch exclusive. Splatoon 3 stuff. I guess that's like the Splatoon 3 was the biggest selling game in the history of Japan on day one or something like that. I mean,
So
I
there's
guess
3 million.
yeah, it sold a buttload.
And this is why they released a Splatoon 3 instead of
Yeah.
just doing an endless expansion like they've been doing for kind of like Mario Kart and other
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Bayonetta looks like it's going to be,
It's almost here.
yeah, it's almost here, which I got mine. Which I'm glad they gave me the date because I forgot when it was coming out, and I sat there and told Nikki, "Oh yeah, I gotta go pay that
The
off."
very, very end of October.
Yeah, it's like I gotta go pay that off before,
Why do they have to put most of the games this fall that I want to play all into October?
I know, right? Oh my gosh. But anything else catch anybody's eye, Dennis? I know you probably watched it more intently than I did.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much, you know, got all the ones that I was interested in, like Fire Emblem
mean-
and there was one. Fatal Frame. Excuse me. Fatal Frame, the Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. That's one that originally came out on Wii. That's the one that was never localized like forever ago on Wii. And now we're getting a remaster of that,
Right.
basically. And it's being localized for the first time, which is super exciting. That and trying to think, there was another one. It was called like Fae Farm or something like that. It's interesting because it's
Yeah.
actually developed by the people who made Dauntless, even though it looks nothing like it. But it's like a cool little fantasy farming game. I'm not gonna lie, I thought for a quick second it was Fantasy Life. I thought it was like a
I did
remake of Fantasy
too.
Life,
Yeah,
like a
I
new
did
one.
too.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a completely new original title from Phoenix Labs, I believe is the name of the studio. And
Yeah, Fae Farm.
yeah, that one caught my attention for sure.
Yeah, that one caught Nikki's attention too, and it's a farm sim or farm sim RPG, 4 players. So that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, which is interesting because I started thinking about right away was just like, does everyone get their own farm, or is there like a farm server instead that you all log into? Like, how is that gonna
Well, it says cultivate
work?
an enchantment farm with up to 4 players in local or online multiplayer. Share your progression by crafting items, tending crops, and exploring surroundings together. But it doesn't say, because it says you're infused with magic whether you're farming or battling enemies. It's got dungeons.
I would bet you're just joining a person's game. I highly doubt that it's a
Yeah.
server.
It sounds like it.
Not on Switch.
No.
Two other games that I forgot to mention, though, probably the two biggest ones for me, well, other than Fire Emblem, was Atelier Ryza 3. I was surprised to see a third one. Like, you usually don't see sequels to Atelier games. Usually there's always a new entry, you know. But Atelier Ryza 2 definitely shook things up a bit and became the first sequel Atelier game, and then they decided randomly last year to just do Sophie 2. And now there's Atelier Ryza 3. It's coming out in 2023, so that's crazy.
Now they're
But that
only doing sequels. They're switching it up on you.
yeah, I think that's what it is. But Ryza's been so successful though that I mean they want to capitalize on it. And to be fair, it 2 was also very very good. So hopefully 3 stays in line with that. So, but the last one is Raincoat. I don't know if you guys saw this game, but it's made by the developers behind Danganronpa, or the creator of Danganronpa. And my God, does that game look exquisite! I need that game in my veins. Like give me an IV of Raincoat. My God. Um, it's a little more open. You still have that detective aspect from Danganronpa of like who did this, who did that, whatever. Um, but you definitely get to walk around the city. It looked like almost like a mix of like they took Danganronpa and then took a little inspiration from AI the Somnium Files a little bit too, because you can walk around a little bit in AI the Somnium Files. But granted that those are just in like very small specific locations. But yeah, I think they took that and just like expanded on that. But man, Raincoat, oh my lord, that's the one I need. That's the one I need. That was a big highlight for me. Yeah.
Hopefully it
What
runs
caught my
good on
eye. Yeah, one that caught my eye that I need to look up a comparison for was the remaster of Tales of Symphonia, because
Yeah.
watching the trailer they had, I was like, that looks like the game, but it's probably one of those
Yeah, it
things where
just
it's
looked the
what I'm
same.
remembering the game looks like. It was like,
Mhm.
I played that on GameCube. It can't have looked like what they're showing here, but it didn't look shiny and new, I guess. To me,
Yeah.
it just looks like this is just Tales of Symphonia, which, to be fair, is probably the best Tales game that they've ever done, or at least one that has a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was like, yep, I remember playing that game. I don't want to play it again, but I was like, I wonder how much better it actually looks, because it just didn't jump out of like, wow, this looks amazing. It was just like, okay, that looks like an old game.
Right.
I mean, because it is at this point, it's pretty old.
Yeah, it is pretty old. Tokyo Game Show, which is going on right now. It was kind of hard to find like recaps of it because one, it's going on right now, and two, where they're in a totally another day where it's tomorrow over there. It's hard to find. It's hard to find up to date stuff. I know it seems like Xbox has had a big presence at the Tokyo Game Show. I've seen a lot of news about Xbox with their presentation, which I had not watched yet. I know.
Yeah, didn't they announce a bunch of like games coming to Game Pass?
Yeah, Assassin's
Mhm.
Creed Odyssey, Metal, Hellsinger, Ni no Kuni, Deathloop will be here. Those are all games that'll be out the next week.
Oh, here's one. If you have not played The Outer Wilds yet, play that game.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. That game is really good. Yeah, that one's coming too. Um,
If you like exploration in video games, and it's one of the things that you like a lot, The Outer Wilds was made for you.
yeah. Valheim on PC at the end of the month. Grounded 1.0 will be out the 27th. You know, I actually seriously sat down and played that game a month or two ago, and it's not bad. I could see a good time with people, with friends with that one. It's an interesting survival game. There's a bunch of stuff. There was a lot of interviews that came out with Phil Spencer this week. I guess while they're over in Japan at the Tokyo Game Show, he's really pressing hard to try to get more Japanese games, on Xbox. I guess you could say he's probably pressing the flesh with the price hike of the PlayStation 5, and the PlayStation 5 is not doing quite as well as the PlayStation 4 in Japan.
I mean, it's not any different than he's probably done in the past.
I'm sure.
Hey, he's doing it again, and now it's also because this is the first time in a couple of years you could do it in person, really.
Yeah.
So take advantage of all of that, like what Xbox has done since you've asked people last time, what's going on just in general on the scene. Just be like, please give us your games.
Yeah.
We'll pay you. We've got Microsoft money.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what might come out of this. Hopefully some cool stuff. That's one area that I think Xbox really lacks in is those, not just Japanese RPGs, but I mean just Japanese games. Square Enix, there's a lot of Square Enix games that I don't understand. Well, like Octopath Traveler. Octopath Traveler has been on Xbox over a year, never came to PlayStation, but they can't get other Square Enix games. It's so strange and weird how contracts
That's
work.
because Square Enix is a weird company too.
Yeah, they are. You're not kidding.
They make weird decisions.
Yeah, they really do. It looks like the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection is going to come out on Switch and PlayStation 4 and PC. Of course, they talked about Street Fighter 6. Yu-Gi-Oh! If you're into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Still. Kids still into Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know.
I never was and probably never will be.
Yeah.
I used to be
Not my
obsessed with it,
scene.
but it started getting a little too crazy for me. But I still like the games that kind of go back to the basics. I played a little bit of Master Duel that came out recently. It was fun. I liked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was never into it. It was a thing that I was older at the time, so it was like Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay, that's something that the kids are into. So. It's like my great nephew started playing. For some reason, he's obsessed with the Pokemon trading card game. Never played Pokemon, knows nothing about Pokemon, but apparently now that he's in school, public school, kids know the Pokemon, so he's got to have the Pokemon. And do you know how to play the Pokemon trading card game? And I look at him and go, nope, sorry, I don't. I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue how to play it. Sorry. I could tell you how to play.
I deleted all of that knowledge from my head of any knowledge I may have had.
Yeah,
No.
but I know how to play regular Pokemon on Switch. You want to play Pokemon on Switch? And we'll get that kid a Switch before long. Like I said, there's been a bunch of stuff come out, but a lot of it I haven't news come out, but I haven't kept up with. Gunfire Reborn from 505 Games is coming out, and it's going to be day one on Game Pass. I don't know. We'll probably
Because that's been an early access game, I think, Gunfire Reborn for a while. If I remember right. If I'm thinking of the correct game, I might be thinking of a different thing.
But
on like a PC or something for a while.
We'll probably have more to talk about that next show when everything's said and done, and see what all they have. Ubisoft did their Ubisoft Forward. For some reason I call it Ubisoft Connect. I don't know why.
It was so bad.
I didn't watch it. I just saw
I had it on because I was working or something at the time. No, because it was on a Saturday, right? I was bored, so I turned it on. And yeah, I shouldn't have. It was like the amount of information they had in there probably could have been done in half the time. It was one of those.
Well, and that's why I don't usually watch the Ubisoft ones, because
Produced
they're
by Jeff
usually
Kim.
like that. So it's like, but there's going to be 2 Assassin's Creed games come out.
That's the other thing that annoyed me is I was hoping there'd be new information, but absolutely every single piece of Assassin's Creed news was leaked beforehand.
Yeah,
So
it
I
was.
already
Yeah.
knew it all,
Yeah,
and all it was like, here's a little teaser trailer or something, so it's official. But it's just like, oh man.
yeah. So apparently, the Assassin's Creed Mirage is going to be set. What is it, like before the events in Valhalla? And it's going to be more like the original Assassin's Creed. So
If I
it's
remember right, you're playing as the character who was in Valhalla as well, who comes to
Baghdad.
your village or what have you. It's been so long since I played Valhalla though, but it's Basim.
Yeah, that's it. I just
But there's
saw it. And I was like,
also the cooler thing though is there's another character with a really cool voice actress that's oh man, I'm gonna butcher her name and it doesn't say it here. But I know her from like The Expanse. She was a voice in a couple of the Mass Effect games and some other video game stuff. And it's one of those people that like you may not know who they are, but you probably heard their voice. I think it's like Shora Agdashlu is probably not how you pronounce her name, but like she's just like got this really deep, like I've smoked 8 million cigarettes in my day kind of a gravelly voice. It's very distinct, and I believe she's voicing the other main character in the game, or at least like she's supposed to be like the mentor of the Basim character, unless I'm remembering that was one of the other Assassin's Creed games, but I don't think so because like Mirage is pretty much the only one they really gave any details on.
Right. Yeah. And it's supposed to be a shorter, more, I don't want to say linear game, but it's it's not going to
I
be
mean,
a huge.
at this point, they could do a 40-hour game and it would be shorter.
Well, this one,
That's still a
everything.
huge game,
Yeah.
but like they've bloated so much with Assassin's Creed now that like
Right.
shorter what is relative.
Well, and what I read afterwards, it's not in this, but it's going to be like 20 hours. It's going to be more like around the original, 1 and 2 Assassin's Creed, because it's going to be more stealth, parkour, and assassinations, what I'm fine with. I don't have
Be more focused so you can tell a really good story.
Yeah.
Like, yes, please.
Yeah, and that's what I. Not that I don't want to say turned me off of the past couple of Assassin's Creed games. I love the past Assassin's Creed games. The RPG elements, the open world is really cool. But man, I get about 20-25 hours into it, and it's just like, you know what? That's a lot of game, and I'm not even a quarter way through it. And I don't have time to really sink 100 and some hours into these games.
Like Valhalla, even if you just got rid of all the side stuff and only played story missions, would still be way longer than 20 hours.
I know, yeah.
The game is huge.
And the other game, the other Assassin's Creed game, was Codename Red, which is set in feudal Japan. It's going to be more of the traditional open world RPG Assassin's Creed, which they have no idea. They didn't have a release date or anything like that, of course.
Yeah, I mean, they're just like, yo, we're working on other Assassin's Creed stuff. We'll tease a bunch of stuff way ahead of time.
But
they also had the Hexy one, which looks like Assassin's Creed Blair Witch or something. Who knows? You can't tell from the little teaser trailer that they showed.
But I like the thought of, hey, we've got an Assassin's Creed game, very story based, original Assassin's Creed, 20 hours. But you can also play this Assassin's Creed, which is an awesome story. It's open world RPG style, like you're used to. If you want to play 100 hours, 200 hours, however long, I like having the both. Not that will I play both of them? Sure. Will I probably play Mirage and probably play it to completion? Yeah, that's probably the one I'm more likely to do, because it's it's going to take me a lot less hours. But am I excited to get an Assassin's Creed in Japan? Heck yes, I am. And if I see one more tweet on Twitter saying, well, if you want to play a cool Assassin's Creed game in Japan, just play Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation 5. It's like...
But they're right, John. That's absolutely right. That is very much an Assassin's Creed game, minus the, we're jumping in and Animus. That is... There's so many mechanics in there that are just, straight up pulled from Assassin's Creed.
I know, but still, come on.
But hey, that doesn't mean we can't have another one.
Yeah,
that's
God forbid somebody other than Sony make a game. No, we can't have that. It's like, I'm so tired of hearing Sony.
But if you want to play an Assassin's Creed game set in feudal Japan or whatnot before this one comes out, then play Ghost of Tsushima to tide you over until the actual Ubisoft one comes out.
Absolutely. They talked about the Mario and Rabbids Spark of Hope. They showed some more Skull and Bones.
It's got Rayman and some DLC or something. We're already talking about post-launch content before it even comes out. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So Skull and Crossbones will be out November 8th. I was really looking forward to maybe picking up this game and playing it till I heard it was $70, and then I went...
You know what I saw watching that? I was just like... This is very much a John game because this looks exactly like Sea of Thieves, except take the art style in a different direction. But a lot of the stuff they're showing is even what little I played of Sea of Thieves, I'm like, yep, that looks like Sea of Thieves. Yep, you could do that kind of thing. It's just Ubisoft was like, we want to make our own version of that.
Yep. So, I'm all for it, but, it's cross-platform play, which is cool, but... the one thing that they didn't talk about in this that I was very sad to hear is I wanted some information on what the Ubisoft Plus, or whatever they call it, their form of Game Pass. Is that Plus? Yeah, that's what they call that, right?
I think it's Plus, yeah.
They announced that it was coming to Xbox a while ago. They announced it was coming to PlayStation. When is this happening? That's what I want to know. They gave nothing on this. They were talking about their third anniversary. They talked
about it a little bit because October, I think you can get a month for free preview of the stuff or whatever. But whatever it is they had some offhand comment of how many games you can play at that time. I was like, you can't even finish one of your big open world games, guys. Come on.
Well,
in a month, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know. I want to know how it's going to work. That may be how I play Skull and Bones. I would like to play that game. I'd like to buy it. I don't know if I want to pay $70 for it, but if they have the service on Xbox, I will try it out, and if I like it, I will buy it. I will gladly pay for it, but I don't want to shell out $70 and and not like it. So yeah, they talked about other stuff. They're partnering with, who is it, Netflix to make Assassin's Creed or something. I don't know who.
Well, they're doing an Assassin's Creed live action show or something at some point with Netflix, but they're putting some sort of mobile games via Netflix or something that are also Assassin's Creed or something.
I don't even understand.
There's three of them. There's Assassin's Creed. I think Division was one, maybe. I don't remember. It's hey, we're partnering with Netflix, so they'll give us some money to make some things. So here you go. It's I will forget that those are even a thing.
Yeah.
I'll remember the show because they'll promote that, but the games, it's just wait, Netflix does games. I forget that.
Yeah, and they have apparently where I have a Netflix account, I can download games for free. Mobile games. I guess the way it works, at least on Apple, is you go through the Apple Store. I don't know. I've never been able to figure it out. It's
I thought it was through the actual Netflix app itself.
If it is, I can't find it.
But
I've looked through the app a dozen times because the
I'll worry about it if they ever get something I care about on there.
that into the breach.
You want to play another match 3, Nathaniel?
Yeah, that new.
Oh boy, do I!
Well, that new Into the Breach game is on there for free. The new version of the updated version or whatever.
I don't even know what that is.
That's that. It was on Switch. That was the. Oh
wait, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. The
play on that already, so I don't care.
Well, yeah, but they done all this updates and expansions and everything like that, and that's all available through the Netflix thing on the thing. But I'd be dipped if I could figure out how to do it. I've tried to. Finally, I got frustrated and said, "Forget it. I'm not even going to mess with it." It's like if I can't figure out how to download if you're giving it to me for free and I can't figure it out, well, a bunch of bull crap. It's like
That's probably why they're like, we'll give it to people for free, but we'll make it so convoluted that we'll only have so many downloads.
They're gonna wish they paid for it.
Well, they succeeded because
they're like, we can offer it for free, but only if we have a restricted number of licenses. So we'll make it hard for people to get so that we artificially bottleneck it.
Yeah. But,
who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, there was so much to sort through. Links are in the show notes if you go to the website.
The weird thing about Ubisoft was they started off with a bunch of the regular Ubisoft. Well, I say regular stuff, the not Assassin's Creed stuff, even though this story starts with the Assassin's Creed stuff. And then they went for like maybe, I don't know, 40 minutes. I don't know. Didn't time it. And then they're like, let's go over to the Assassin's Creed thing. That was a whole separate set, different hosts. They do all of that, and then they're like, let's go back to Ubisoft Forward, like it was a separate thing. And then they go back to the Ubisoft Forward host just to say, hey, man, that Assassin's Creed looks cool. Well, that was it, guys. Ubisoft Forward is over. It was like, why did you even You could have just had the Assassin's Creed thing in the show and just have an outro there. It was just really, really, like, silly the way they did it.
Yeah, that's weird. But
it was all very, very heavily scripted. Like the Assassin's Creed part has what's one of the voice actors from the earlier games that was played, like Sean, I think the character's name is, one of the like modern day characters. And it's just his normal voice. So you're hearing an Assassin's Creed voice if you've played those games in the past of just like him talking, but like he has all these talking points that are just coming straight from the teleprompter and him saying stuff that you're like, you didn't do that, you didn't play that and just finished that the other day or whatever. Like, come on. It's just like you're a little. It's kind of the same vibe that you get from when they do comms on a video game on the demos when they're doing like the gameplay demos and it's all just artificial. It's kind of the same thing, just in kind of like the presenter form.
Gotcha. I did not watch it. I don't remember what I was doing. Probably if it was Saturday, I was probably watching football. So
I watched it because I wanted to see the Assassin's Creed stuff, and then I was disappointed because I was like, I knew all this already. It's fine.
But all right. Well, that's all I have. If you want to see more details of that stuff, you can go into the show notes or go to the website, the-gamer-lights.com, and check out the show notes. Yeah, I noticed Nathaniel. I forgot Nathaniel put in the thing. Well, Dennis, what's your feelings about Yakuza?
In there just because I wanted to write my sort of expansion on the headline of I put name in there later. I just wanted to say Yakuza is dead. Long live Like a Dragon, even though it's not dead. It's just they changed the name.
Yeah,
which is strange. Whatever.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, I don't mind either. I don't mind.
Hey man, you got to maximize your SEO, and like a Dragon is since that last game, it's hot, so you got to just put it on everything.
Yep. Yeah, you do. So, but all right. Well, we're going to call that a show, a very long show, but we didn't have a show last week, so we had a lot of news to talk about. So, but like I say,
like 2 shows in one.
Yeah, exactly. 2 shows in one. So if you want to catch us on Twitter, or catch us on Twitch or YouTube or whatever, and come join us live, like I always say, follow us on Twitter at GL_podcast. I try to tweet out a couple hours early before we go live if you want to come hang out with us. If not, you'll get the podcast on the feed the next day. So, as long as I don't forget to upload it, which I won't, but there has been once or twice that I've forgotten to upload it on Sunday. So sometimes Sundays get busy, but it's no big deal. It happens. So, all right. Well, if nobody's got anything else, we're going to call that a show. Thanks a lot for hanging out and listening with us or talking with us, and we'll catch you guys next time.